Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Okay, it's 6:30. This is a meeting of the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union Board on Wednesday, October 5th. This is taking place over Zoom. I want to make note of the fact that we have a large number of participants tonight. And on behalf of the board, if you're not a board member, it's really good that you're here. We obviously have at least one weighty topic to discuss tonight, and we will be getting to that topic pretty quickly. We will, in just a moment, consider adjustments to the agenda and then get into communication and public comment. And I want to make it abundantly clear that anybody who's here tonight that wishes to comment will have the opportunity to be recognized, although at this time, based on the number of participants that are here, I may need to enforce a 2-minute limit on comment. So if you're able to, and you have a pencil and a piece of paper or any other means, you might want to either write that comment out ahead of time or at least make a few notes so that you make the most of your time. If it turns out we don't have a lot of comments, then maybe we can go a little bit longer on individual comments. Once again, on behalf of the SU board, thank you all for being here. Okay, adjustments to the agenda, Chris. I have some, and if you're aware that I've missed any, would you please point them out to me? Okay. To begin with, I will ask at the end of adjustments for voting members of the SU board to confirm who they are. I have an idea who they are, but I'm aware that there may be a vacancy in Rockingham, which might possibly be filled by the assistant chair, but I'll need to know about that. Okay, the adjustments. Item 5A, which is superintendent's report, will become item 6A, which is approval of school reentry plan. We're going to strike item 6B, which is first read of policies 34A and 34B, because owing to last night's weather, we weren't able to hold a Zoom meeting of the policy committee to discuss those. They likely will come back on a future agenda. We are going to drop item 9, which is adjournment, down to item 10 and replace it with a new item 9, which will be known as director's comments, because that appears to have been inadvertently left off of this agenda. And Chris, are there any other adjustments that need to be made?
No, I think you covered all the ones we discussed earlier, David.
Okay, well, thank you. I am going to do a roll call of sorts of the voting members of the WNESU board, and I would like you to confirm if you're here and you are in fact acting in a voting capacity. Cheryl Charles?
Yes, I'm here, David. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn Morgan, are you here?
Yes.
Great. Jessa West Clark?
Yes.
The first
Okay.
2 weeks and 2 days, because there's 2 statutory holidays.
Okay. Somebody is unmuted. It'd be a big help if you recognize your voice.
Much better than it was in the
Great,
spring.
yeah, good.
So the
You all in.
You remote?
yeah, and then it's going to be the first 2
Chris
weeks.
can do by default.
David, you have to unmute yourself again because I muted everybody.
Katie Hansen, it appeared we had a cross conversation going on in your living room. So if you could be mindful of that. Certainly, if you're here for communication and public comment, you're going to be invited to unmute and tell us all about it. But for any others who are here, if you would help us ensure that this is a fairly orderly meeting, and mute when you're not speaking. Okay, for the high school, Brenda, are you here? Deb Wright?
I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, I see you, Brenda. Okay. For Rockingham, I would like to confirm the voting members. Priscilla, are you here?
I'm here.
Great. Okay. Jason, are you a voting member tonight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a third voting member from Rock Board who's here tonight?
I'm here, David. I think
Okay, so you will be the third member, George?
Yes, sir.
Got it. Okay, thank you. All right. Well, I have 9 WNESU board members here. We're about to move toward communication and public comment. I'm going to recognize Jason Terry to speak on behalf of Rockingham Board, and then I'm going to recognize Chris Pratt. Jason, are you ready?
I am. Can you hear me?
Hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you all for attending, first and foremost. At the beginning of the Rockingham School Board meeting Monday night, it was agreed by the board that it would amend the agenda to react to the proposed plan for school reentry. This motion was intended as a directive to Rockingham SU voting members and advisory to the superintendent of schools. This is the motion. Move to direct superintendent to provide in-person instruction in full time every day beginning second week of school. Now I have a statement from our board. The Rockingham School Board believes that the supervisory union is above all things a service bureau for the constituent boards, and also that ultimate authority over policy rests with those boards. With that idea in mind, the Rockingham School Board very strongly believes that all boards need to very carefully consider the administration's proposed reentry plan and ensure that it is appropriate for the schools and their communities it will impact before it is adopted. It is for this reason that we amended our agenda Monday night for the purpose of having that discussion and providing guidance to our SU voting representatives as to how to represent Rockingham School Board's interests and concerns.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Chris, are you ready to make a statement?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. I apologize. Video is not up. If I put on video, then the meeting ends because I lose bandwidth. So, thank you for the board and everyone tonight. I'm just going to get right into the proposal. The proposal that is being submitted to the school board for approval tonight has been created through a team of 45 plus members that consist of board members, teachers, nurses, facility managers, technology coordinators, administrators, the transportation supervisor, NEA reps, and the director of student services. All information and recommendations from these subcommittees are placed in one document that is being proposed to the school board tonight. To mention, these subcommittees that were created were social and emotional, academic and extracurriculars, health screening, facilities and sanitization, transportation, and food services. In addition, public surveys were sent out to families on options that they would prefer. The reason that 100% in-school option was not chosen for this proposal is that some of our district buildings do not physically have enough space to accommodate all the students in the buildings at the same time under the current social distance requirements. Taking all this into consideration, the reopening plan that is being proposed to the board for their approval is a hybrid model that includes a possible 100% remote option that we're going to explore for those students who either have medical reasons themselves or someone in their immediate household who has a compromised health condition. All three options that the state gave us were explored. I understand that no matter what option we go with, we will not be able to please everyone. With so many unknowns of what could happen with the virus when the school is opened, I feel that it would be unethical for me to offer out a proposal that would not take into consideration the safety of our students and staff. Their health and safety must remain the priority. I ask that the board that if you do not approve the hybrid model, then you keep the schools in remote instruction. I would like to ask the board to make a decision tonight so that we have enough time to prepare for opening of schools, no matter which plan is chosen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we are under communication and public comment, Chris, so I'm going to lean very heavily on you here for your help. If you are in a position where you can recognize a member of the public to speak on behalf of the chair, and also hopefully you have a sweep second hand on your watch, if you could keep track of time. When someone gets about a minute and a half through, Chris, if you could give us a reminder, and then another one maybe at 1:45, because as I said before, I'm looking right now at a list of 188 participants, and I think it's really important that anyone who wishes to be heard tonight has that opportunity. So go ahead, Chris, and let us have some comment, please.
I have one from right now, Renee Morin. Do we know how many students are actually returning? At this point, just based on the surveys that I have seen, it's really tough to tell at this point. It changes on a regular basis based on what the virus is doing in the public.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I want to make a distinction here. Communications and public comment is not intended to be used as an interactive forum between the board and its administration and the public. It's an opportunity for members of the public who are not board members to state a concern. To the degree that those concerns require answers, then this is an opportunity for the board to hear those concerns and prepare to thoughtfully respond to them. But because of the number of people who are here tonight and the agenda that we're working with, we're really not in a position to do questions and answers under communication and public comment. So what I'm looking for specifically is that members of the public, and that certainly would include staff members, paraprofessionals, interested citizens and taxpayers, they are encouraged to make comment based on what you've just heard from Jason Terry from Rockingham Board, or what you've just heard from Chris Pratt, Superintendent of Schools, or anything else that you believe is relevant to schooling in the 4 towns in the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union. So that's my criteria tonight for communication and public comment, and thank you for hearing me out.
Okay, so based on that, David, we have, let's see, it keeps moving. Jessica Illingworth would like to speak.
We're ready, Ms. Illingworth.
Okay, so I am a staff member at the Bella Falls Middle School, and I'm also a parent of 2 who attend WNESU. I'm asking that you please vote in support of the hybrid model prepared by the task force. Please do not undermine their efforts like the Rockingham Board did. They developed a plan based on everyone remaining safe and healthy and within the CDC guidelines. We all want our students to have the best education possible, and this cannot happen if we are not healthy and safe. Going back 100% will not allow for the social distancing that we need. And there's so much more I want to say, but I know there's a lot of people, so I just want you to take that into consideration. Coming from a parent and a staff member, social distancing is important, and I would feel safer with the hybrid model. And if that's a no, then I would recommend completely online. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Chris, who do you want to recognize next?
Evan Moore.
Hello, board. I hope I'm coming through well. I'm a Rockingham parent. I am strongly in favor of at least starting the school year in a remote-only mode, similar to what the Mill River SU is doing. I think there are a lot of unanswered questions in the proposal as it stands. Do we need multiple isolation rooms at each school when we have multiple sick kids? What happens at a bus stop when a parent can't stay there with a kid? There are other things like that. There's also the calendar. What happens with snow days? Do we have snow days? What happens with holidays and in-service days and how they affect the split cohort in the hybrid model? I think there are a lot of details to be worked out, and I think we should give ourselves some time and maximum safety to do so by sticking remote online, even with the burdens it places on many families.
Thank you, Evan. And I want to respond very briefly and let you know that the WNESU board will do its very best to assemble the questions that we hear tonight and be prepared to answer them, most likely in writing on the WNESU website, as we did last fall when we had issues with the 403Bs that are teacher retirement funds. So once again, thank you, Evan. And Chris, let's have somebody else, please.
Andrea Carlson.
Hi, can you
Hi,
guys hear me? Hi, my name's Andrea Carlson. I'm a resident of Westminster, a school counselor at the high school, and a parent of a 12th grader at the high school and an 8th grader at the middle school. As a parent of a student in the middle school, I'm very concerned with the vote at the recent Rockingham School Board meeting. I should rephrase that. I'm scared. Karen Bukowski has made it clear that the middle school cannot meet the current CDC guidelines for reopening schools with all of the students and staff in the building. The thought of my daughter crammed in one overheated room on the 4th floor with 25 or more other students, not 6 feet apart, masked all day, every day, with little to no opportunity to go outside frightens me. The middle school has one small outside space that did not meet the needs of the students pre-COVID. Based on the current research available, the Rockingham School Board's plan seems like an extremely risky endeavor that is most definitely not thought out and not achievable. The likelihood of someone getting sick and possibly dying goes up exponentially with a full reopening, especially in the school buildings that cannot meet the CDC guidelines and have little to no outdoor space. I'm hopeful that the WNESU board accepts the proposed reopening plan that begins school with a hybrid model so we can reduce class sizes in all of the schools and take the time to reassess how we are doing in 6 weeks. This is clearly the safer option, and that is the ultimate goal right now, keeping our students, staff, and community safe. I will add that if the Rockingham district does go to a full reopening on week 2, I will use my school choice money from Westminster to find a safer middle school. If others from Westminster, Athens, and Grafton follow suit, the middle school could potentially lose a lot of money. Right now, the demands of opening schools are going to increase budgets. It would be a tough time to lose the income from the sending districts of Westminster, Athens, and Grafton. Again, I encourage all of you to accept the plan that has been thoughtfully created by the people who understand the schools the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Chris, who's next?
Bill Scarlett.
Will.
All right, good evening. Bill Scarlett, school counselor at CES, Rockingham taxpayer, and most importantly, dad. I put a great deal of value on getting students back to school full time. As a school counselor, I believe that distance learning is not ideal for meeting students' academic or social or emotional needs. That said, I do believe strongly that we have to reopen school in a way that will be safe for everyone. A dedicated group of about 50 staff and board members with a broad range of expertise worked hard to come up with the best possible reentry plan. Their plan was crafted with guidance from the Vermont Department of Health, the Vermont Agency of Education, the Center for Disease Control, the State Board of Education, American Psychological Association, and the American Academy of Pediatrics. 3 Rockingham school board members believe we should ignore the experts and open school 100% almost immediately. Obviously, I disagree. I asked the WNESU board to listen to the experts regarding the hybrid model. This initial strategy will give us the time and experience so that we can safely work our way to being fully open as soon as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Will. Chris, who do we have now?
Amanda Desmarais.
Hello, Amanda.
Hello, everyone. So, yes, I'm Amanda Damaris. I am a former para. I was RIF'd this past spring, but I've worked in the district for 11 years. I also have a freshman in the high school this year and a student that is moving into 5th grade at the middle school. I did watch the Rockingham board meeting, and I was just flabbergasted with the idea that, teachers may not want to go back to work. And the concern about teachers working for the tax dollars that are being paid. And I just want to say that there is not a teacher that I know that wants this situation, that wouldn't prefer for school to be normal again, that wouldn't prefer to be able to hug their students and teach them using the best method that they know how. They did not go into education to teach through a computer. They did not choose a desk job. And if these same teachers, who I'm sure have cried many tears of worry for their students, as I myself have, believe that the hybrid plan is the best option, then the board should respect that. They put together a committee. These people have the experience. They have been in the front lines. They know what does and does not work in a school, what is and is not possible. And I think that it's very important that we respect the decision of those almost 50 people to create the hybrid option. Without the hybrid option, I would not be comfortable sending my children to school, and I would have to look for other alternatives. I agree with the hybrid. I think that's the best way to go, and I encourage the board to vote to approve the hybrid option at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Chris, I did earlier see a request to speak from Olivia Clark, I believe it's Christy Jackson and Dempsey Potter, who's no longer just Dempsey Potter. And I just want to commend those to your attention. You're the gatekeeper tonight, so whoever's next, Chris, let's have them, please.
Yep, I got the list I'm going by. Tacoma Milbauer.
Hi, this is actually Crystal Milbauer.
Hi, Crystal.
Sorry, I apologize. You didn't let me switch the name out. I have a daughter that goes to the Grafton Elementary School, and my son goes to the high school. I do propose for the hybrid method. I did have a question about the 100% online learning. Online only because my husband really do fear for the kids going back, only because we are high risk asthma. My husband has heart issues plus diabetes. So hoping that that does get pushed through an option to do online. I wasn't sure what that really was. I didn't get a chance to read over the packet fully today. So that's something that we are more looking towards for the safety of our children.
Crystal, I'm simply going to note the fact that when we do discuss the reentry plan later, I believe that the 100% online learning option will be part of that discussion. So hopefully you can stick around.
Yep, perfect.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Jody Hauser.
Are you here, Jody?
I am. Sorry, I had to unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Jody Hauser, and I'm the Library Media Specialist for Central Elementary School. I'm here to support the hybrid teaching model proposed by the District Task Force that was made up of the WNESU administration, school principals, school nurses, maintenance staff, teachers, and other staff in the admin. I would like to emphasize that this hybrid plan is for reopening is written for the first 6 weeks of school. I believe that's a reasonable request. There will be logistical issues to work out. Everything won't work on the first try. We need 6 weeks to see if safety mechanisms and protocols and procedures put into place do what they need to do, which is to keep us all, students and staff, as safe as possible. That is and should be the #1 goal. Another point I would like to discuss is how the hybrid model is going to work. I've been hearing comments such as, if kids can go for 2 days, then they can go for 5 days. This is not true. The school week will be divided in half, with Wednesday as a deep cleaning and sanitation day. Classes that have 20 students will now be meeting in pods of 10. In a pod of 10, students can safely distance from each other, and should a COVID case arise, only half the student body will have been exposed. That Wednesday remote learning and sanitation day will act as a buffer to the other cohort. I would also like to say that there are some classes at Central that cannot fit safely in the classroom. We have restaurants in town that are not allowed to have patrons in their establishment for 1 to 2 hour dinner, yet we are debating to house a full class of 16 to 20 students for a 6-hour period in a space not big enough to follow CDC guidelines and state directives. In addition, with smaller cohorts of students, academic instruction and social emotional curriculum can be more individualized, which is important as students coming back to school may be dealing with a variety of challenges. With the hybrid model, we will be able to best support our students by providing an environment that follows state directives and CDC guidelines. COVID is a social disease, and we need to work as a community to keep each other safe. Our neighboring districts have already approved hybrid solutions. There are staff members that work in this SU whose children go to school in those districts. If you vote down the hybrid plan and insist on an unsafe full reopening, the risk is not only limited to our district, but to extend to our families. The extra work and community effort on our neighboring districts using the hybrid model will be in jeopardy. Please, 6 weeks of proposed hybrid model is not a lot to ask. We, the admin, maintenance, school nurses, kitchen staff, paras, and teachers have never had to teach under these conditions. The hybrid model proposed by the SU Task Force Committee is a reasonable plan, and it would figuratively and literally give us breathing room to start the school year off in the safest and most successful way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Chris, who's next?
Travis Kemp.
Hello, Travis.
Hello. So just short and sweet, I was just wondering why we don't use our assets such as the library, the movie theater to social distance some of these kids. If we can bring back those paras, give them back their jobs, use them, to control kids, I think we can socially distance and get most of them back to school, if all of them back to school. I also, with the hybrid, our juniors and seniors, they're going to be doing this stuff in college. Why do we not let them do that so we can free up space at the high school so that we can get these younger kids in every day? I think a lot of kids fall through the cracks, and I just don't think it's a good deal for these kids to be out of school 5 days, back in for 2. You're going to have behavioral issues. I would just like to see our younger kids in school 5 days a week, and spread them out using what we have. As taxpayer in Bellows Falls, we pay a hefty tax on that library. Let's use it. The theater, that's heated. There's no extra there. Let's use that. But to keep these kids out of school, it just doesn't work for me. Thank you for your time. That's it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Travis. We've heard you clearly. Chris?
Olivia Clark.
Hello, Olivia.
Hi, I am Olivia Clark. I am the ELL, the English Language Learner teacher across the district. I am here to not only speak to safety, but also to equity. We have a responsibility to our whole supervisory union to provide an equitable education to all of our students. If we have schools within our district, like the middle school, like CES, and I'm sure others, that cannot equitably fit all of our students, then we need to figure out a way to do that. And we have done that within the task force, within within the administration, we have all come together and done that. You, the board, in some capacity, have hired all of us to be the experts within our fields, to be the nurses, to be the teachers, to be the administrators, whether it was this board or the one before. And that trust, for some reason, has gone out the door. And the rhetoric that was used in the Rockingham School Board meeting on Monday was downright dangerous. The talk of cutting bus routes, the talk of getting kids back into school when they may be overcrowded or they may not have space to fit the Vermont and CDC guidelines is dangerous. We need to think about that. And I implore the whole board to actually listen to your words, David. You were quoted today in the Reformer saying, as it stands, I support the superintendent's recommendation for opening schools. I am well aware of the pedagogy of the importance of the student-teacher contact for especially younger learners. Even though Vermont has a very low infection rate, we are not immune, and that can change very rapidly. And I agree with you. It is changing rapidly. It's changing rapidly at UVM. It's changing rapidly in Keene. It's changing rapidly everywhere. And I do think that we do not have invisible walls around us. We are within different communities all the time. And so I implore the board to vote for the hybrid model and to listen to your words, not just ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Chris, who's next?
Christy Jackson.
Hi, Christy.
Hello, I'm Christy Jackson. I live in Rockingham. I also teach 8th grade at the middle school. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't first say my personal preference would be to begin fully remote. However, I absolutely trust the work of my colleagues and the work of the superintendent and this plan that they have proposed. And I urge the board to vote in support of the hybrid model. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Chris, who do we have now?
David Major.
Hi, David. Nice of you to be here.
Hi, nice to be here. I just want to also say I'm speaking as a parent and as a Westminster Advisory Board member, and I want to speak in favor of the hybrid model. It seems like a well thought out and conservative approach to starting school, and I appreciate that. In my wife's and my family, we've had 2 uncles and an aunt die of COVID, and we have 4 family members living in the house here, in addition to the school-age child who are above 60, and we need to be very careful. So thank you for coming up with a hybrid model, and I support it.
Thank you, David. Chris, who do we have now?
We have Ian Spardelati.
Hi, this is Spardelati. This is Ian Spardelati.
Hi, Ian.
I'm a Westminster resident. I'm a parent of a child in the middle school and in the high school. And I'd like to say that I'm very frustrated that we're even having this discussion. I feel that the governor has abdicated his responsibility. There should be either a statewide plan or our plans should just be approved by the Departments of Education, Labor, and Health. So unfortunately, they put the responsibility in the hands of the school boards to basically go thumbs up or down on these plans. And I would like to say that you hired a team of professionals who have worked very hard for the past few months developing a plan to provide education to the students of our communities in the safest way possible. And I would like for this board to reject the ignorant, misguided, and unwarned motion the Rockingham board passed on Monday. It is not the responsibility of schools to save our economy. It is the role of schools to educate students in the safest way possible, and that is it.
Thank you, Ian. I love the crickets. Chris, who do we have now?
Angela Cartier.
Hello, Angela.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Cartier. I'm a teacher at Grafton Elementary School. I prepared something here, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it. I thought about cutting it short for the 2 minutes. It is disturbing to me that the Rockingham board voted as it did the other night, and I am seriously concerned that going back to school in accordance with the outcome of that vote will put students, teachers, and all staff in unnecessary risk. At least with a hybrid plan for the start of the year, it gives schools a chance to perfect their procedures and ensure that we have necessary measures in place before moving to the next step. Disregarding the work of the task forces across our supervisory union undermines the efforts of nurses, administrators, maintenance staff, and teachers. I am a member of the Grafton Elementary Schools Task Force, along with our school nurse, counselor, custodian, principal, and our administrative assistant. We know our building and we know our kids. Working out social distancing is very complicated and oftentimes just doesn't work, even with a small group of students like we have at Grafton. With guidance from our principal and the superintendent's draft plan, we worked out a hybrid plan for our school that was well thought out, that kept in accordance with the CDC guidelines. This is a 6-week plan that will be reconsidered as COVID-19 numbers change. This hybrid plan is not for the entire year, it's only a start. I'm not certain that sending kids and staff back to school in the building is safe at all. There is so much unknown about this virus that in-school learning seems like a dangerous move. Parks are closed, bank lobbies are closed. I can't go eat at a restaurant inside. And if I can, there's only a few people allowed inside at once. This just means a few of the restrictions still imposed throughout our state of Vermont. This virus is not under control, and we shouldn't go about educating our kids as if it actually is. Suggesting that students go to school full-time right off the bat is an irresponsible decision and a huge risk. It is a gamble with human lives. What you win by sending students, teachers, and staff to school full-time does not match what you could lose. Our students, our teachers, families, and community members are all at stake here. People are concerned with what the outcome could be in years to come, as I heard at that Rockingham meeting. My response to that is they and their families will hopefully be able to be beyond the coronavirus at that time, and we will be able to look back at this pandemic and hopefully learn something. By jumping into this too quickly, the future could mean that looking back on this pandemic could mean that we're wishing that we would have taken things more slowly and cautiously. If a child's learning of material is what you are concerned with, my answer to that is teachers will teach students remotely for now and then get them back up to speed when we're finally able to get them back in the classroom like we did before this pandemic. I'm almost done. Teachers will figure it out and educate kids like we always have. Bringing my students to school amidst a global pandemic is very scary, and I must be careful since their lives literally depend on it. This is a community effort and we must support one another. As a teacher, I encourage risk-taking often and say to my students, go ahead and try it. What's the worst thing that could happen? Or what's the worst thing that could happen? You could get it wrong. Typically, it's not a huge deal, but in this case, taking a risk is not encouraged since the worst thing that could happen is something none of us even want to consider. I urge you all to err on the side of safety and not take a risk with our students, staff, teachers, their families, and our community. Unless we are absolutely certain that people are safe, taking a risk in this instance is not advised. Look at all of us now at a Zoom meeting. Why? Because it's not safe. We can't just bring our kids back to school right now, just like we can't hold this meeting in person. I urge the board to set a positive example by doing what is right and being an example for other school boards in Vermont. Vermont has a reputation of standing together in unity, and I urge you all to do that in this instance. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Chris, who do we have now?
Heidi Chase.
Hi.
Hello,
Hello. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, please.
Heidi Chase.
Oh, Heidi. Hi.
How are you?
Great. How are you?
I just want to mention that everyone's saying they're so concerned about our children. Now, they were taught online for months. I have heard from every parent I've spoken to that their children got nothing from that. And yet we want to start school off the same way this year. My children want to go back to school. I have followed the science behind this. I have listened to the CDC, and they're all saying that it's okay for children to go back to school. Children are not the ones spreading this to adults, okay? Children get it. They have very little side effects from it, and they're not spreading it. This is in the news all the time. All you have to do is look at it. You need to just follow the science, and this is ridiculous. Our kids are losing out because everyone is terrified. More kids die from the flu each year than this virus. That is a statistic that was just given yesterday. This is completely ridiculous. We need our kids back in school. If there are parents that are at high risk and don't want their kids in school, fine. Give them the online option. But my kids want to be in school, and I want my kids to be in school because they're not learning online, and it's a waste of my time and theirs. I happen to agree with the decision the Rockingham board meeting last night. That is a good idea. They're listening to the science. Everyone else just seems to be throwing it out there and throwing out their own words, and that's not what we're given. That is not what the science is saying. And I don't understand why people keep saying this over and over, but our kids need to be in school learning. And yes, that is a priority.
Anything else, Heidi?
No, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Chris, who do we have next?
Dempsey Potter.
Hi, Dempsey.
Good evening. I can't seem to get my video up. I would first like to reiterate our superintendent's statement that some of our buildings do not actually afford us the space to social distance. That is a huge concern for me. I do have a quick question, and that is from page 4 of our reentry plan, where it says the first semester hybrid plan, remote sooner if COVID cases increase. I'm wondering if somebody can tell me how many weeks are in a semester of school.
I'm not hearing an immediate response to your question, Dempsey, so perhaps you should go on.
Approximately 18.
When I work out the math, we're basically in school for 42 weeks of the year. And if there's 3 semesters, that's 14 weeks. So I question the first 6 weeks in a hybrid compared to the first 14 in a hybrid. That was one thing that concerned me. And also, not that this really has anything to do with it, but I have been taking care of a friend's pool this past week while she's out of town. And this analogy came to me as I was cleaning all the debris from last night's storm out of the pool. I said to myself, wonder how cold the water is. Oh, well, if I really want to go swimming today, I think I would just test it with my feet. I would dip my toes into the pool and figure out whether or not it was actually going to accommodate my needs. And I sort of feel like this hybrid model would allow for us to safely find out if this is a plan that will work for our school district. And I would like for all of the board members this evening to disregard last night's vote and vote on your own. Thank you.
Thank you, Dempsey. Chris Pratt, do we have another speaker now?
Yeah, we actually have 72 in Quay. So next up is Jeannie Close.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jeannie.
All right. I'm Jeannie Clowes. I've taught at Central Elementary School for almost 40 years now. Started as a kindergarten teacher, then a first grade teacher, and now I'm an interventionist. Do I want everyone back in school? Of course I do. That's what I signed up to do. Do I think now is the time for that? Absolutely not. I fully support the proposal for 6-week hybrid model to start the year. That will give us all time to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and what's best for our students. I urge the board to please vote to go with this 6-week model based on the great amount of work and research that this team has done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeannie. Chris, who's next?
Dan Romero.
Hi, Ann.
Stan.
Oh, sorry, Stan. Hi, Stan.
That's all right. So I'm here as I'm the middle school band director, and I can just about say that there is no one who wants to see school open and be back working with the kids more than I do. But I also look at what's going on, and I look at this once in a lifetime disease and the danger that it presents to our entire society. We've been very lucky in Vermont in that we've been able to buy, we've had a great plan in place where everybody's been distanced, schools shut down at the right time to contain the disease, and that, that I am, anyway, I'm going to cut it short, but anyway, I'm here to support, despite all of that, despite of wanting to be with these kids, despite, just like every other teacher, we all want to be in the classroom. And despite all of that, I'm here to support the hybrid opening option. It doesn't have the place for band that I would like it to have, but the safety of our kids, of our teachers, of our staff, of our community, because it's not just going to happen in the school, it's going to spread. Once it gets in the school, it's going to go to families, and some kid might bring something they picked up at school home, and an older member of their family may come down with this and something tragic may happen. And I think that we need this kind of a plan so that we can slowly open and test it and see how it will work, so that the least amount of damage, if things go bad, the least amount of damage would happen. Anyway, I support, and I hope that the board will vote for the hybrid opening plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Chris, I saw a request from Brittany McGann, I believe it is, earlier. Is Brittany on your list?
If you saw her, she probably is, but.
Okay, all right.
That would be the last one.
Certainly, if we get toward the end and Brittany hasn't been recognized, let's make sure that we do that.
Yep, you can go next because that's the last question.
Oh.
Comment that I have.
Well, who do we have?
Brittany.
Brittany, are you here? Chris is, I'm not picking Brittany up. Is there anyone else requesting the opportunity to speak before we get going on the rest of the agenda?
Currently, no one left.
Holly Taylor?
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for acknowledging me. My name is Holly Taylor, and I am the kindergarten teacher at Saxons River Elementary School. This will be my second year there. So my first year obviously was quite exciting. It is not, however, my second year as an educator. The first thing I want to say is thank you to the entire task force. Sorry, I do have something written. I want to say thank you for creating a plan with the number one thing in mind being the safety of the students and the staff. That is what it says on the first page of the proposal. Because our district created a task plan with those two groups rotating between in-person and remote, I personally feel that they have not only the safety of the students, but also the social emotional well-being of the staff and the students in mind. I want to say that it was created with safety in mind. And going back to the Rockingham School Board meeting, I want to say that I don't know if the Rockingham board members actually read the proposal. And the reason I say that is because knowing that the representatives from your community, I live in Bellows Falls, do not support you or care about your health and safety or that of the children who rely on us to advocate for them. It is very disheartening to know that you are willing to say, oh, my taxes are high, so you need to get to work. Guess what? We are working. Every teacher I know has been busting their bottom all this time since school let out, working on a plan on how we're going to teach. And to have people who don't even come into our schools and know what's happening, no, please don't interrupt. To have people do that is very frustrating. I also want to say that one thing that I don't think any of the board members understand, nor would I expect you to, because you are not in a classroom, especially not with 5- and 6-year-olds. But I want to say that the more elementary age kids you pack into the room, the less instruction that will occur. And the reason for that is we will be managing social distancing or just distancing, as well as masks. And that's going to be the focus over academics. The smaller groups allow for us to give more direct instruction. Without those smaller groups, sorry, all we're going to be doing is managing behavior. I don't know a 5 or 6 year old that can wear a mask for 7 hours. Even this meeting and the Rockingham School Board meeting were not held in person. So until you guys can put on a mask and sit in a room socially distanced from other people, where little kids, they want to play, they want to share, they want to do all those things. Of course, we want to be back in school with them, but the health and safety needs to come first. And I 100% support the hybrid plan with the hope that yes, one time, one day, hopefully this year, it'll be safe to all be in person again. And again, thank you to the people who created that great plan. And then the only other thing I want to say is that where our this county is located in Vermont, we are next to New Hampshire, and we're very close to Massachusetts, within an hour. And those are states that have had quite a few occurrences of COVID. And we know that those people love to come here, especially for some leaf peeping. So just keep that in mind. Just because you can't see it or don't feel like it's impacting you right now doesn't mean that it won't in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Chris, I did notice there was a message from Brittany McGann saying she didn't have audio. And I just want to suggest, Brittany, if you can put it in writing, maybe in fact we can get your comment before we get done tonight. Chris, do we have anyone else?
Pamela Johnson Spurlock.
Oh, hi, Pamela.
Hi, thank you. I know I emailed most of the board members here earlier, and you have my thoughts, but I wanted to publicly state some of them. I am a parent of, well, soon to be 2 at Grafton Elementary, 1 kindergartner, 1 6th grader. And I have also worked for this school district. I used to be work for Central Elementary. And then also I have been a board member twice for Grafton. I want to implore the board to look at the hybrid model. I know many teachers who have worked on this. They have put their thought and dedication into this plan. They are incredible educators, and they have gone above and beyond so many. I really have, I want to just really, I'm trying to think of what to say. I really go along with what Ian and Jody and Angela and Bill and Olivia and Christy and so many others have said. We really need to look at this from the safety of our students and also our families and communities. Some people are saying, oh, well, your communities have opened up, but you're not seeing everyone flocking at once. People are trying to be responsible. A school system is not a business. It's a school system. It's an educational institution. We need to remember that. In fact, my daughter, she excelled at remote and she wants to go back to school. But we have to look at what's safe for our communities. We are not immune to this virus. While it is not here, it is everywhere. And so I just really want everyone to think about the hybrid model and to really support it and know that these educators, the team of experts, really put their heart into it. And we should really, honor what they have put forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Chris, do you have anyone else?
Stephanie Mitchell.
All right. Is it Bethany?
Stephanie.
Oh, sorry, Stephanie. Stephanie, are you here? We're ready if you're ready. While we're waiting for Stephanie, Chris, have we gotten any written comment from Brittany McGann?
If she did, it's up there. We can find it. The next up to speak would like to speak is Crystal Webster.
Okay, well, perhaps we'll come back to Stephanie then. Ms. Webster.
Hi there. I'd just like to make a couple of comments. I know you're not answering questions, but just a little backstory, just our own household. Every household has a different kid. Every household has a different situation. My child needs to be in school. With that said, I don't want to send my child to school right now. I think the only concern for me is in this hybrid model, the amount of support that students are going to have on the online days. I did sit in the Rockingham meeting and hear a couple of questions answered, and that was my biggest concern. With the hybrid model, as a child who needs additional help face-to-face, who do we turn to on online days? And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Stephanie, I did see you in the comment. If you're not able to get on audio, is it possible you can send a comment in? Okay. Chris, do we have someone else now?
Let me see. Stephanie Mitchell comment. I did watch the board meeting the other night, but the other night was appalled to wake the next morning and hear the outcome. And next up is, let me see, Erica Bisbee.
Hello, Erica.
Hi. I didn't intend to speak tonight. This is so out of my wheelhouse right now. But I'm a third grade teacher at Central Elementary. I'm a Rockingham resident and taxpayer, and I'm a mother to an incoming kindergartner and second grader at CES. We're a family with a high-risk family member. So for my kids, we're considering a 100% remote option or homeschooling just because it feels what's best for our family. But I just want to say that research shows time and time again the importance of learning through play. And while the teacher at an elementary level, and while the teachers that they're going to be having are the most wonderful teachers I could ever imagine for them, there's no way that they're going to be able to create the environment in a COVID situation that they would in a non-COVID situation. Being in school won't create an environment or learning opportunities that students would have, 2 years ago. I believe that children are innate learners, and that what they learn during this time won't necessarily be what the Common Core prescribes, but there's immense value in students learning how to hammer a nail or plant a garden or the birds that come to the feeder, or just going down a rabbit hole on a topic that they're personally interested in. There's most definitely going to be academic areas that need bolstering once it's all over, but it won't be time completely lost. So my hope is that the board will vote to approve the hybrid model. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Chris, who's next?
Brittany McGon.
Hi, Brittany. Glad you made it. Are you here?
Let's see. She says she has a comment above.
Oh, okay.
I have so much in the chat right now, I can't see it. And I would say Kelly Green.
Okay, Kelly, you are about to be recognized. Chris, if you can find Brittany's comment, and we can entertain that
Hello?
before we're done with the conversation. So, are you here, Brittany?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, Brittany, then let's hear from you, please.
Hi, I am a Rockingham resident. As a parent of 2 children going into 3rd grade, I am honestly just appalled that sending our children back 5 days a week is even being considered as an option. It would be a huge mistake to send all these children back and pack them into rooms that aren't even big enough to social distance. Personally, my children are both on an IEP and struggle with school as it is. If you send them back full time, not only do they have to struggle through the regular difficulties that school brings, but they will also be expected to keep their mask on all day, stay in their assigned seat all day, which is extremely difficult for my kids, not play with their friends or share, hug, etc. And if all these kids are at school at once, it's going to be so much harder for them to follow any of these rules. Just have a heart. Think about the kids with the special needs. This would be so dreadful for them. Yes, remote learning is difficult and they don't learn as much as they do when they're in school. But so what? They can catch up. I would rather my children struggle through remote learning than get ill or bring it home to us or my family members that are at high risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Chris, I believe I cut off Kelly Green, and Kelly, I apologize to you for that. Can we recognize her now, Chris?
Absolutely.
Okay, I actually didn't have my hand raised,
you
but
did.
since Erica spoke, I will speak. I also teach 3rd grade at Central School. I went in today and placed my desks for all 18, 19 of my students that are expected to be in here. And If I'm in the front of the room teaching in my little 6-foot space, I have students that are 30 feet away from me. You can't tell me those kids are going to focus and pay attention to me. I think the hybrid model initially, until the physically distance guidelines are maybe loosened a little, is the way to go, especially for the younger kids. I think I had more. It's only for 6 weeks at this point, and then we reevaluate. And there's also other associated costs that aren't being factored in. Erica and I are the only ones at Central that have desks for students. All the other teachers have tables, which means you can't fit as many children around a table as you can by separating the desks. So there's costs associated with this. And I also take offense to the comment the other night that we need to get to work. I've never worked harder in my 30 plus years of teaching than I did last year, and I plan on doing this year. So please consider the hybrid model as the way to go, at least temporarily. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Chris, who do we have now?
Kristen Goshak.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi there. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Kristen Gottschalk. I've been teaching at the high school for 23 years, maybe 24. I just want to throw into the mix, in addition to all the other wonderful comments supporting the hybrid model, the idea that there may very well be faculty who, if forced to go back 5 days a week with 100%, some faculty probably have family members who are immunocompromised or who just do not feel like that is a safe measure, and they may actually choose to resign over putting themselves and their family members at risk. So you may also be dealing with a staffing issue, which would just then put more kids in a classroom if we have fewer teachers. It's just another thing to consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kristen. Chris, who do we have now?
As far as I can see, that's the last question we have, unless someone else has something that they haven't put into the chat.
There's a Michelle with no last name.
Hi, my name is Michelle Fairbanks, and I'm a resident of Bellows Falls. I have a few things I'd like to say. First of all, I'm appalled at the meeting that took place with our Rockingham board. I just have no words for that. As a taxpayer, I expect that a percentage of that money is invested in our community's children. For those whose concern it is about the allocation of their tax dollars, I challenge you to consider the hybrid model as a continued investment in our children, one that will ensure their safety and the safety of all our community members. There isn't one life that is expendable, in my opinion, not one adult, one child, no one. For another comment I'd like to make is that I am a foster parent. I have been for 10 years. I had a student placed with me that goes to the middle school, placed with me just as we were moving into remote learning. Not only did this child have to adjust to a new home, he had to adjust to remote learning. And I can tell you that 5th grade team at the middle school, who I have not had to work with before, was so available and on top of helping me help him not only learn, but meet the emotional needs that he had as well. I reached out to them, they responded. I never had an issue. I was also a employee at CES. The commitment and dedication that every one of those staff members have at that school is deep and heartfelt. They care about their students and will put their health and safety first and foremost. I'm appalled that we would even think about putting them at risk by opening up. Put a face to the one student that Priscilla Lambert had mentioned that we may get a few cases. Put a face or a name to that one person. It might be your son, your daughter, your grandmother, your mother, your father, your teacher. That's one too many, and will that hit a little closer to home? I ask you to please put in place the hybrid model and offer a remote for those that might need it, for family members that are at risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Chris or Lynn, do we have anyone else?
I don't. Lynn, do you?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay, well, I want to thank everyone who's here for being here. I want to thank people who commented for their comments. We'll try and answer the questions that were raised. We are going to get back to our agenda, and we are rapidly working our way toward a discussion of the proposed school reentry plans. I hope that folks will stick around for that. We are at this point are down to reports. 5A, which is the superintendent's report, has actually been collapsed into item 6A, which is that discussion of the school reentry plan. But we do have a 5B, which is a business office report. So, Chris, where are we on that?
Which report do you want?
I'm looking at 5B, business office.
Business office. I think Teresa is with us, and she can talk a little bit about the financials that you have for this month. Teresa, are you there?
I am here.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi. The financials that you received this time are pretty much identical as last, just the ones you received 2 weeks ago. I'm still wrapping things up for the tail end of the year. A lot of state reports that have been due and everything else. So as I'm wrapping things up, there hasn't been too much change in that until the bottom line. So until I've gotten some more end of year entries and postings, you probably until the next meeting, you won't see, clearly you didn't see the numbers change this time around. So there's not much to report.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. I'm going to stick my neck out just a little bit here, and I'm going to ask if there are board members who have questions. However, before we possibly entertain those questions, I'm aware there are at least a few members of the constituent boards who are here tonight, but not in a voting capacity. I do, as a for instance, see Jack Breyer. If there are others, would you please let me know who you are? Okay, guess we'll find out later. And are you aware of any questions from board members, Chris, for Teresa?
I don't see any,
Okay.
unless board members who they want to raise their hand and ask. I don't have any.
Okay, well, that will be all right, because that's going to bring us down to the major business of the evening, which is approval of the school reentry plan. And Chris, I would like you to speak to this and tell us about it, and tell us what action you're looking for from the board tonight.
Sure. So,
got Margot, by the way.
Okay, let me just. I've shared with all of the board members the proposal of the reentry plan, and like I said in my opening statement, with the 45 plus educators and others who worked on this plan, it was the consensus of those groups that we go with the hybrid model for the first 6 weeks and revisit it. The updated proposal that I sent to you today, I think it's worth noting that we are really trying hard to work with Vermont Virtual Learning to provide remote learning option for students in the report. Dr. Carey has been working really hard to get as much information as we can, but we felt we at least wanted to try to put that in the plan as another alternative. And so that was one of the areas of the proposal that was updated today. I mean, I can take questions on the plan if as board members have them. That might be the easiest thing rather than going through it page by page, unless you want me to go through it.
Well, Chris, I'm actually going to preempt you here, because Rockingham did stake out a position on this Monday night, and I feel that both in fairness to Rockingham board and for the benefit of other board members as well as other members of the public who are here, that it's important to have an understanding of what the Rockingham reasoning is on this. And in that regard, I would like to recognize Priscilla Lambert, because I believe Priscilla is prepared to speak on behalf of Rock Board. Priscilla, am I correct in that?
Yes, I can do that.
Would you please? Thank you.
Let me get a drink first. Sorry. First, I'd like to point out, in accordance with AOE guidelines updated on August 4th, school districts, not SUs, have the authority to decide the instructional disposition, in-person, remote, or hybrid, that will be implemented in their schools. Hearing this, I am so glad for all the comments tonight. I am also glad for any discussion that the board does, but our board, the WNESU board, has to realize that this has to go back to the individual boards. And I would encourage your parents, you've got individual boards meeting, go ahead and, contact them as well, because that is important. But keep in mind that the ones responsible for the implementation are your, not implementation, but the instructional disposition are your individual boards. And then the WNESU, it would be supporting them in the things that they do, such as bus transportation and their special ed teachers to the boards and those things. Okay, as a result of our duty to provide public education to children in our district, Monday night, the Rockingham board voted to direct the superintendent to provide full in-person instruction starting the second week of school. They recognized that, starting with the hybrid model that was proposed that first week would give them the numbers that they needed to understand whether it was possible, because then they would know what children were actually coming, because the only school that they had been told had any problem with amount of space was the middle school. And they are aware that the middle school does have some space issues if all students do attend. But if only half of the students attend, then there's lots of space. And then dividing them in half again doesn't really give a really good influx of instruction or interactions between the people. And so that was what we were kind of looking at and thinking about when we were doing it, that we really need the numbers, which could change all kinds of things, especially for the middle school. The primary grades, it was very important to us to see that they got more than the hybrid proposal, which provided 2 days of class and then a check time, and then 5 days out of class. And as both Karen, I believe it was Karen, and the superintendent said, there would be no supports for assignments, making it difficult for primary students to learn and retain information. And also with 5 days in between, it's hard to get to the next subject. The subcommittees, I was on 2 of the subcommittees of the task force dealing with academics, extracurricular and recess, and social emotional well-being was discussed. Half days were discussed the first week and full-time after that. These were in their documents. A hybrid was of the model that you are proposing at this point to the board, that's being proposed to the boards at this point, and the parents are seeing, was never discussed during any of the time I was in the meetings. And as far as I know, there was no follow-up full task force meeting to discuss it. So I am not quite sure who developed that, because the 45 to 50 members that were on that task force that I worked with never saw that hybrid model. The first time I saw it was on Monday. There's been no COVID in our district since May, and hybrid guidance said to base school openings on community transmission. Exposure is basically the same for 2-day versus 5-day, because you got the 2-day with the teacher, then you've got the other 2 days ones with the teacher, and you got cross stuff with from one group to the other, just with that or any other specials that they end up having. So it is there, but just realize There is the remote learning, which does keep your kids out of the schools totally. And the virtual remote learning to me would be, at this point, maybe something that you need to look at if you don't want your kids in school 5 days, because the 5 days only gives you partial instruction. The WNESU proposal provided to the boards models that of Brattleboro and Wilmington and other districts where there are higher COVID levels. Ours should be based on our school district with the lower COVID levels. And we may have to fall back to other stuff and quickly if we ended up with a case of COVID anywhere in our district. Say there's an outbreak with parents because they've gone to work or that kind of thing. We certainly would have to respond. Governor, State Medical Director, Head of American Association of Pediatrics, Secretary of Ed are all urging return to in-person instruction. Dr. Fauci said the areas with low COVID rates should return to in-person. And that was what we were trying to do, was look at the numbers in the school and look at whether, the transmission was where we could get to doing that. At Monday night's meeting, the superintendent stated that there were 50% of the parents wanting in-person instruction preferred full-time. Although not as vocal right now, we should certainly listen to those numbers as well. We should wait and we should find out what numbers of students are actually attending, and which has not been determined. That is a key issue in our decisions here. I know it was hard for some parents to hear us make that decision. Without knowing the numbers, I feel that we can accommodate those students and we can make good classroom choices. If the numbers prove that we can't do that, we will have that chance to find that out that first week of school, because we're doing a hybrid that first week of school. We're doing 2 Tuesday and Wednesday and 2 others Thursday and Friday. It should give us a much better indication of numbers and whether something needs to be done. It can be different at different levels because it needs to follow our developmentally appropriate programs for all of our children. Developmentally appropriate for primary, it's very different from developmentally appropriate for high school students. Although I do feel for the seniors that are preparing to go for college, because they need a lot of preparation too. But the primary students are the ones that really, I don't think, can go the 5 days without that teacher contact and that teaching them. Some parents will be able to do that and teach and be able to support their students and be able to get through those extra lessons and that kind of stuff. But there will be a lot of other students that don't do that, and a lot of students that are missing out. Let's see, reading through the Vermont Collaborative Remote Alternative proposed by the superintendent, it is my opinion, and this is not necessarily anyone else's, that it would provide as good an alternative for those not wishing to return to full in-person instruction is out there, and would provide more supports possibly than some of our, if certainly a hybrid program. On a personal level, I have stated that I would be comfortable in subbing in our schools, so I am only asking what I believe is safe. The Rockingham board is meeting in person for their next meeting. And yes, it is limited because it's going to be in the schools, and the school programs, according to the models that are being put out there, does not allow parents to be in the schools. So if we can be some other place where it's safe and where we can distance, I would love to see parents.
So, thank you for your thoughtful remarks. I'm going to go around the table here with voting board members first and ask them for comment. I will come back, obviously, to make sure that Rockingham is well represented in this discussion as well. So,
excuse me, David.
Gail, yes?
Yes. I am not a public speaker. I am a speaker, but not a public speaker. But I'm looking at the chat. I'm multitasking. And I think people, as hard as this is, has to respect others. And I don't see that happening. And I just wanted to make whatever a proclamation or something that we do.
Amen to that.
Okay. Well, thank you for pointing that out. So far, I think we've had a civil discussion tonight, and I'm hoping that it
No,
will.
this is in the chat.
Yes, I do understand that.
Yeah.
And that's a reasonable caution. I would hope that people in the chat would consider the community at large here. And I need to express to, I'm expressing it to you, Gail, but I'm really expressing it to everyone here. Remarks were made earlier this evening about what I said that was quoted in the Brattleboro Reformer. And my belief notwithstanding, I spent a great deal of time today talking with both Jason, Terry, and Priscilla from Rockingham Board to ensure that we could have a thoughtful and orderly discussion tonight. So yes, I am concerned about the chat, but I'm also concerned about the fact that we're here to conduct our constituents' business. And I think it is important at this point to recognize members of the boards, and certainly Chris Pratt can let me know if he feels that it's important that we recognize comments within the chat, which hopefully will rise to the level of what I refer to as parliamentary discourse. So once again, Gail, thanks. And as I said, I'm going to go around voting board members, and Cheryl, Charles, if you're here, I'm prepared to hear your comments and questions.
So, David, I am here. Thank you. This is the time. Let me get clear about what it is you're asking of the voting board members. You're asking for any comments at this time. We're not yet prepared to vote. You're asking us simply to make comments. Is that correct?
I've not yet asked for a motion because I don't feel it's appropriate until we've had an opportunity to really explore and understand the reentry proposal. And that's why now I'm asking for questions and comments. You got chosen first here, Cheryl, because you're the top name on the left side of my page. But I intend to go back and forth across the boards until I've had an opportunity to hear from everyone, and then we'll have a second round. So Cheryl, let me rephrase it then. Do you have questions of Chris Pratt or of Priscilla, or is there additional comment that you would like to offer?
Thank you. Thank you. And I would point out for those watching, because I can see that Fat TV is here as well, that my phone number is showing up here rather than my name on the screen. And so I'm this 802 number that ends in something. I can't even remember, for 8093 or something like that. So I was as a Zoom participant on Monday evening and did hear all the deliberations Monday night. I think one comment I would make is that actually started as it was posed to the group as a way to guide the voting members at this meeting tonight. As I heard it, it initially was simply to make it clear what the position of the Rockingham board would be. I didn't get the sense initially that it was intended to be any kind of binding vote, and that was pointed out to be difficult since that topic had not been warned in advance for action at that meeting. To our plan that we're all considering tonight, I'm going to echo that there's nothing more important than the safety of the children, the teachers, and everyone else in those buildings trying to support the education of young people. And I would also say to Heidi Chase and others who were citing the science, I too read the science and am a bit of a student of all of this. And one of the fallacies around that is getting increasingly corrected, but a fallacy is that children don't get the virus and that children don't spread the virus. And that's becoming more and more clear from the scientific evidence. One of the persons tonight in the chat cited this recent report out of Israel about how initially they had virtually no problems with COVID. They started a slow reopening of schools. They got extremely confident, opened it wide open, and had now a tremendous difficulty with much illness associated with all of it. So I'm an advocate for children's health and well-being in every sense, that of all of our community members. I think we can't take for granted that we've had such low, in fact, no at the moment, deaths in this area, but we're at high risk. And so I'm a strong supporter of a go slow approach. I'm a bit more cautious even about the hybrid model. I want to make sure that we're as careful with all of that as we can possibly be. And I want to make sure we have support for the students and teachers in the days that they're not in the building, so the 3 other instructional days. And I'm a supporter of the 100% online option that Chris and Lynn, Superintendent Pratt, and Dr. Carey have brought forward. I'd like to make sure that could be available to whomever wants it. So those are a few comments at this point in time.
Thank you, Cheryl. Deb Wright, representing the Union High School, are you here, and are you prepared to offer questions or comments? Deb?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I figure I'm also in a minority. I agree with Priscilla. I also agree that with a number of families who I've talked to who have a great deal of difficulty with their children learning remotely has been very problematic for many of them. And they feel that their children would get farther and farther behind. In addition, I also believe that there are a number of people who don't realize what will happen to the average family in Rockingham, at least in Rockingham, because I am a resident of Rockingham and not Grafton, Athens, or Westminster. Families will become homeless, starving, desperate. They'll have a lot more important things to think about than schooling for their children, because they won't have those laptops anymore for remote learning. They'll have to sell them. I mean, just looking at the desperation of some of the people I have talked to, this is not a laughing matter. They're very serious about how this is impacting them. COVID-19 will not be their most concerning matter. They will be concerned about survival. And I'm emphasizing that because no one seems to care about that portion. It does matter. It does impact our children. And we think about how many children who socially are lacking and require their social interaction and their food from our school system, who will only get that 2 days a week. Again, I agree with Priscilla that after that, what the Rockingham board just determined to do, 3-2, was appropriate. I don't believe it was appropriate for their chair to resign in that manner. It was very inappropriate to yell at co-members, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. George Smith, you're here representing Rockingham Board. Are you prepared to comment, or do you have questions?
Sure. I have a couple comments. First off, thanks to all the teachers who showed up and actually made comments, and also the few parents that jumped in as well. I would like to point out that the majority of the people who did speak tonight were, and don't shoot me yet, wait till I finish, were teachers. There wasn't a large representation of parents that actually spoke. That being said, when I'm out and about in our community and when I'm talking with people, it is pretty much a split on whether people want their kids to go back to school, or whether they want the hybrid version or remote learning, or any version of any variation of that. So nothing is going to make everybody happy. And the one thing that I'm feeling like is the roadblocks that would make it hard to house all of the students back at school is the only thing keeping me from, keeping me from not supporting this hybrid plan. I want them all back to school. Every educator says that that's the best way that kids can get instruction, but the feasibility of making it happen doesn't seem to be fully there. So at this point, I have no reason to not support it.
Okay, thank you, George. I'm going back across the aisle here. Lynn Morgan, do you have any questions or comment that you can offer?
Yes. Deb was commenting about the food being an issue if the kids, if we do the hybrid, that the children would only get food 2 days a week. Does that mean we would stop doing the busing of food on the off days? Or would we continue that?
I think Superintendent Pratt is queried on that. Chris, can you answer Lynn's question?
Yeah, we're working with the state on that. I believe with the hybrid model, but we're looking further into it, that we still want to make sure that the food's available to the students as it has been.
Okay.
David, can I just add to Chris's remarks?
Yes, please, Lynn.
Thank you.
Just for the benefit of the fact that a lot of people here tonight, would you remind us what your capacity is here in the district?
Sure. I'm in the dark right now, which I'll turn the light on. It got dark suddenly. I'm Lynn Carey, and I'm the assistant superintendent. I work for Chris and the school boards. So what I'd like to say is I was on the food and nutrition task force, and we do have a plan so that students coming on the A day will be fed. They'll get their breakfast and lunch in school. But we will go out after those kids are delivered, and we'll deliver to the students that go on B day. So they'll get their food at home. Everybody gets their home on Wednesday. And then on Thursday and Friday, A students will get their food at home and B students will get it in school. So yes, everyone will be continued to be fed. However, I do need to point out that we do not have, we had universal free meals in the original critical time starting from March till June. And now that has passed, and we have to now we have to encourage families to apply for free and reduced meals. And this really this is a very important procedure because everything is tied with our grant money, our CARES money, everything. So the more families we can encourage to apply for free and reduced meals, not only does it benefit the children, but it benefits all the children. So thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, I do hear a voice, but I'm going to ask your forbearance because I would like to go back across my list and hear from all of the board members. And then I'm going to ask Chris Pratt to comment, and then we're going to go around the table again. So Brenda Farkas, are you here, and do you have any questions or comment?
I am here. I do have some comments. I support the task force and the fact that you made it a widely varied group of people that were professionals to do that. So I support their decision. But that being said, I have no children in the school district. I am a mother and a grandmother, and I've been a teacher, not academically, but I have a professional degree in different things. And I see the point that Deborah brought up, Deborah Wright, and I agree with her point. I also want to say that the important thing is there should be a choice. So I like the hybrid because we're cautious, because there was a lot of distress and a lot of mixed information. And so I think that's good. I think the hybrid is good, gives you time to reassess. So I support the task force, but I also believe in choice in reverse. I believe that if I had a child and I would want my child in school, I should be allowed that choice. And those that did not want their children in school had the options of homeschool and remote learning or online. So I don't want to forget those people that desire their children to be, but I also believe that those children should have the opportunity to be safe. So your distancing thing is important, and some of your buildings may not qualify for that, but I believe everybody should be able to be included in that discussion of choice. And I believe you have a lot of options available. So I don't believe we need to be that heated between ourselves. There are options. And I appreciate that.
Thank you, Brenda. Jason Terry, I would like to hear from you. You ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you. So I want to try to explain what it's like to be a board member for a couple different boards, okay? So we received an email, and trust me, board members are not in the knowledge or in the know as you might think we are. We all received an email July 31st at 2 in the morning that basically said, as board members, you'll have 3 options to choose from. So, okay, we can choose from a remote learning, in school, or hybrid. That's what we're going to vote on. Then, July 31st, 8 hours later, we receive another email that says, the plan that is being proposed to the board for approval is the hybrid model. If the board does not approve of this model, the administration will then go back and create a plan based on which delivery the board decides and they want to put in action. So it's kind of like trying to buy a car, and then you get to the car dealership and they say, you can choose all these cars, but it's got to be that black one right there. That's a 1991 Ford Mustang. So just want to try to explain what it's like for all the boards. It's as clear as mud. We've asked several times for numbers or anything, and we get them 10 minutes before the meeting. And that is frustrating. And now we're in a dilemma of we have to choose what is best for the kids. So we all have to come together. We have to come together. Cheryl Charles was 100% correct. That meeting the other night started as this is an action item to bring to this meeting for the vote. I want what you all want. My kids were taught by several teachers here. Kim Wilkinson, Ms. Bisbee, Ms. Green, Ms. Klaus, Mr. Rummerl, Mr. Hodson, the principal. You all know me. All of you teachers know me. You all know my kids. My wife works at the Central School. She's an educator there. She has worked all summer long in summer school. She has helped with the food delivery. So I just want to let you know what it's like being on both sides. So I'm on both sides of this. So, and I do care. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Jess, I have not heard from you yet, and I will point out that I have some other board members in the room that I'm also going to recognize who are members of the WNESU board based on their roles as local board members who are not voting members. So we want to make sure everyone gets in here. So Jessa, question or comment? Both?
Yes. So, oh, can you hear me? I heard somebody's phone.
Very well.
Okay. When we received the email from Priscilla Lambert offering a copy of the letter she had sent to the Brattleboro Reformer, I replied and asked her to provide citations and references for the information she quoted in there, and she has not. So I have put together a few references that I can provide to people for some of the data that we're using for making decisions for our own family. And one of them has been spoken about today, the age-related differences in viral load in nasal swabs with pediatric patients and adults. That was published on July 30th. On July 23rd, Tennessee reported they were one of 9 states that had in excess of 10,000 pediatric COVID cases, and their pediatric cases make up 15.7% of the total active cases in the state of Tennessee. The Georgia summer camp, there was a paper written on that. In June, they had a massive outbreak at a YMCA summer camp in Georgia, and the highest positivity rate came from the age 6 to 10 age group. I also have the British Medical Journal article from July 27th, where the former chief of the CDC outlines how US states are not reporting their vital data properly. I have another article that is of interest to a couple of people in our district with high rates of stillbirth and preterm delivery in women that contract COVID-19 while pregnant. Those are just some of the things I cited. And then I looked at Priscilla's insistence that there is 0% cases in our district. And that is simply not true, because the data was reported for out-of-state residents that have second homes here who claim residency in a different state for tax purposes. They have not been counted. Some of them are counted in our county totals, which if you look, the county totals are different than the town by town totals for reasons such as that. Grafton in particular has a very high rate of second homeowners. And we also have probable cases, I believe, that were not counted earlier because the Department of Health was stuck with mailing addresses based on insurance and hospital registration data. There's also the dashboard in Vermont states that they are only counting the people tested either in or out of state by public health labs, hospital labs, or a reference lab. That does not include private labs that are not reporting data because they're working under specific contracts. There's some other problems with Priscilla's report of 0%, but here in Grafton, that is one of the biggest ones, is that our second homeowners are a huge percentage of our population. My family has chosen, I know we're very fortunate, to Deb's point, we can work from home. We don't have to worry about childcare or housing or food. But we have also chosen, our child has been home, pretty much quarantined since March. And I'm the person in our family, I have to go to work sometimes in Massachusetts, which I'm in one of their hotbed counties on a campus of 30,000 people when I go there. I'm also the person in my family that gets supplies. I go to the grocery store, I go to Tractor Supply for chicken food. We've decided that I'm the one best equipped to do that, I'm the one most able to offer assurance that I'm protecting myself from bringing this virus home. In addition to working in Massachusetts, yes, I work rescue and 911 here in the area. I'm the one most likely to bring it home to my family, and I understand that, and I've accepted that, and it is actually a feeling of responsibility. I don't know how my child's going to feel when she becomes one that might bring it home to our family, and I don't know if that is a level of responsibility I want her to feel. And then there's our staff, there's other children. I am not in favor of forcing these kids to go back 5 days a week, whether they want to or not. I do think that we as a district need to go above and beyond what is required of us and think about childcare issues for families, food insecurity for families. That's just something we need to do. But I do not want to force these families to send their children to school.
Thank you, Tessa. I have 3 members. I believe I still have 3 members also present here, and I'm going to recognize them in the order I've written them down. And I would like to go back to Chris Pratt, and then we're going to go around the room again. Melissa Karlstrom, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I think all of this is tricky and it's hard to know what to do. I understand everyone's perspective that they've brought so far though, and I see that if we were to miss any perspective, we wouldn't be doing it right. And we really need everyone's perspective on this, and I appreciate that. For my family personally, my husband and I, man, we wish 5 days school would be open. We do not know what the heck we're gonna do. My husband works for DCF, and our family is too aware of the adverse childhood experiences that many of our youngest citizens are going to be enduring during this time. And I really hope, like Jessa said, that we can figure out some options above and beyond to help. Even though I want my students in school 5 days a week, I don't feel like I can vote and make anyone else's children go back to school 5 days a week. I really appreciated Dempsey's dipping our toes into the pool analogy that she presented. And I guess I do have one question that I don't think has been risen yet. And on page 6 of the plan, during week 1, what is the intention for Monday, Thursday, or for like the group A to go Monday, Thursday instead of Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday, Friday for week 1, and then switch it for weeks 2 through 6?
Chris, can we have a concise answer to that before we go back to Melissa, please?
Yeah, the feedback from the task for the subcommittee for the academics thought that having 2 days of learning in a row would be much more productive than having 1 day off and 1 day on. It would be able to get them on a roll, and that would also help assist on the days that they're on the Wednesdays, the split day. It allows students to have plenty of work to do because they had 2 days of instruction. Now they have 2 days of work directly tied to those classrooms.
Right. But in week 1, you have students on Monday going over at group A, and then Tuesday group B, and then Wednesday is a deep clean, and then Thursday is group A, and Friday is group B on the first week of school. And then it doesn't seem, it seems there need to be a good intention to not just do group A Monday, Tuesday, and group B. Maybe I didn't understand what you said.
Well, the first week is different because we really want to, everyone felt that it was best to have kids ease into it and get used to the schedule, what it looks like for a half day.
Okay. I guess for a health and safety component, I don't think that it makes sense then to me, and that's okay.
Melissa, what else do you have for us?
Oh my gosh, I have pages of notes, but I don't think anything that hasn't been touched upon or is relevant anymore.
Okay, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Margot, are you here? Margot Gia?
Yes, I am here. Thank you.
You are here.
I just wanted, I think so much has been said this evening, and I appreciate that there are so many community members in attendance. I've never seen a school board meeting that has an attendance like this, and I just thank you all for participating. I think there's no easy decision in front of the schools. No matter which option we go with, it's going to be difficult. And we're asking a lot of our school staff, we're asking a lot of families, we're asking a lot of kids. And it's going to be tough no matter which option we go with. But that being said, I wasn't on the task force, but I do appreciate that the task force had representation from so many different aspects of our communities. It wasn't just administrators, it wasn't just teachers, it wasn't just parents. It really was a representation of all of that. And knowing that, I would support going with the recommendation as a start to the school year. It gives us options as we move forward to either be able to move full-time back into school, or then eventually, maybe, who knows, if things get really bad, there will already be some practice with the online again. One thing I did want to mention, and my own kids will probably shoot me in the foot for even like mentioning this. I think all students, well, I won't go for that far. Many of our students want to go back full time. I think a lot of our families want schools to go back full time. As someone who has experience working with schools and in schools for a while, I do feel that it is our youngest students that probably most need to be in school full time. And I'm just wondering if perhaps there was some exploration of our oldest students being more on the online end of the spectrum and freeing up spaces, say in the high school, for some of our younger classrooms so that they might be able to go full time. Again, I know it's not a popular thing. I just wonder if it was explored and maybe dismissed for reasons I'm not thinking of. I realize that there's an equity issue, but I think that it's not necessarily equitable to have older students who are much more capable to be home. Family, they can more often be home without direct supervision than some of our youngest students, where that will impact the families as well as the students. It's just an option that I hope was explored in all of this. But thank you to the task force, and thank you to all of the people who are here listening and speaking about this issue. It's an important one for our community and no easy answers. So thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Jack Breyer, are you here tonight? Jack?
Yeah. Yes, there we go. Hi. I get one of the benefits of being an old medical editor is you get to talk your way into conferences, and I talked my way into a conference at the HMC starring Anthony Fauci, MD, last week. And he made a number of statements that really conflict with some of the conventional wisdom, one of which is, what is the risk of little kids catching COVID and passing it along? One of his data points was that young children can often have in their narrow nasopharyngeal cavities somewhere between 50 and 100 times the viral load of a teenager and adult and still be non-symptomatic. Now, being non-symptomatic doesn't mean that you're going to stay without symptoms. It does mean that you have the potential of being a super spreader. It also doesn't change your risk of coronary disease with long-term impacts. People need to appreciate that 5 years from now, we're going to be describing COVID-19 less as a respiratory disease and more as a coronary and circulatory disease. This means that we are making decisions that will stay with our children for life. We also need to be aware of the fact that the conference and Fauci said that the potential for spreading of any epidemiological disease, any communicable disease, is particularly concentrated in schools. The 1952 polio outbreak, the 1957 outbreak of influenza, which were the two most significant outbreaks prior to COVID, both started in schools. Started in camps, started in schools, and exploded across the country. They are the principal vectors of diseases of this kind. That's important in my family because in my family I had a cousin die of polio, and I was one of the people that was affected by the 1957 influenza outbreak. It put me in intensive care for a week. So it's the sort of thing you remember. I think that we need to be aware also, as Dr. Fauci said, of the math here. Many of you may have forgotten about that factoring course you took back in middle school. It's important here. When, you're multiplying points of exposure. If you're one kid by yourself, you have no points of exposure. Two kids, you now have two. Each kid now has 1 point of exposure, so there's 2 points of exposure. Add a third kid, now we're doing a multiplier effect. By the time you get up from a number from, say, 8 to 9, you're now doing something on the order of a 900 times increase in points of exposure. When you get up to 16 or 20, you have this exponential effect. This is the reason why hybrid models are important. This is the reason why they work. You're not reducing your risk by 2. You're reducing your risk, depending on how often your kids run around with the other kids, anywhere between 30 and 6,000 times is the reduction of your risk. Now that's really important, that's significant. Now we need to pay attention to that because that math is not arguable. And that's the reason why Dr. Fauci posited the need for hybrid education in the first place. I heard his name mentioned. That's one of his recommendations. And I really don't want to have us argue our knowledge against his because you don't have it. So this is the reason why I would recommend the hybrid model. Now, I fully understand that we have, as Deb said, as so many people have said, we have a lot of poor people in this community. We have a lot of people who work every single day, can't work from home, and we do need to find a way to accommodate them. That is the fatal flaw of this plan. But we can fix that, and we should not fix it by abandoning the hybrid model as the default. Please, for the love of God, let's not do that. Let's go with that. Let's find ways to help parents who really don't have a choice in terms of working, who really don't want to latchkey their kids 3 days a week. But let's not start off with the worst possible choice, which is broad exposure of our children. We have to have one plan. It's another point I want to make. We have our kids that are in high school have children or have brothers and sisters in the elementary school or the middle school. You have to have one plan across the district. This is not one of those cases where we can have every district with its own plan. So I would like us, as much as I am in favor of local control, local board control, I think we need to have one plan. I think it needs to be the hybrid model, and we need to make it the plan for the full district. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jack. I'm going to ask Chris Pratt now if he wants to comment on any of the discussion he's heard so far. Then what I would like to do is go back around to board members and, once again, by a roll call, ask those board members if they have specific questions for Chris. Chris, are you ready?
Yeah, I just said there's a few things I want to comment on. Is like I said at the beginning of my opening statement, is that we don't have all the answers. And no matter what situation or what plan we roll out, there are going to be issues with it. And we know that it has to be a very fluid plan that we're working with, and we're going to constantly go back and revisit it. But like so many other board members and public in the chat have said, we really do have to put the safety and well-being of the students and the staff first. We don't know what this is going to look like. We don't know what's going to look like a week from now. We don't know what's going to look like a month from now. This plan is going to allow us to make those adjustments as we need to, whether they get better or they get worse. So that's why I'm advocating for this, and I'm asking, like I said at the beginning, I'm asking for the boards that we need the board to make a decision on a plan tonight, and I'm asking to either approve this hybrid plan, or if you can't approve the hybrid plan, move forward with 100% remote instruction. But us educators need to start getting ready for opening the school, no matter what it's going to look like in a few weeks. And so for me, I'm asking for a decision either way tonight and not have anything be pushed off. And to finish that, I would like to have Dr. Carey talk a little bit about what instruction looks like on the AB days, and then have Director of Student Services, Andy Haas, talk about what it looks like for those students on IEPs, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Lynn, what can you tell us?
So far, this is what the plan is. On Mondays, the teacher would make one lesson plan for a week so that it would be taught twice. What we're really hoping for is that on both the A days and the B days, we're pushing the reading instruction and the math instruction with the in place. We hope to have tables where students can come in small groups but be separated by some kind of plexiglass and with the teacher. On Wednesdays, the goal is, and it hasn't been talked out yet, the principals, we haven't really gotten the nuts and bolts, but hopefully it'll be science and social studies, project-based learning at home on Wednesdays with a meeting with the teacher, laying out what's happening. If there's materials, they're handed out either for the B folks on Friday or for the A folks on Tuesday. So they would be getting the full extent. They would also receive their recess, their PE. I'm assuming they would get music, but there's no singing. So, but these kinds of specials will still go on. Art, these things will happen. The students will engage in them as they always have. The difference is, of course, the math and the reading will really be the focus of the A days and the B days. But on the Wednesdays, there'll still be learning, they're still writing, they're still reading, and some project-based learning, some kind of science and social studies that will fill out their week.
Thank you, Lynn. Andy, are you with us?
I am, David.
Andy, do me a favor, because we have a lot of people here tonight, and maybe not all of them know what you do at the SU. Would just give us a brief introduction?
Sure. I'm Andy Haas. I'm the Director of Student Support Services. We cover kids who receive services through special education and oversee kids who are on 504 plans. So I think a couple of just quick points. And David, please check me when I go into acronyms because I'm very good at that. So the first thing I just want to say is that we've run a very successful extended school year for some of our most neediest kids in person, and we've used a hybrid model. We felt that bringing all of the kids into a building at one time was not safe, and that we wanted to provide kids with in-person because remote learning doesn't work successfully for those kids. So what we did was create a very similar hybrid model that we're proposing here for the whole SU, and we've had it. We've learned some things from it. One of the things we've learned is like when a kid says they don't feel well, we all go into a panic mode right now, and we're learning to manage that, and we're doing it successfully. We're learning how to teach kids to wear masks who don't traditionally wear a mask. So it's been a social piece for us to teach kids how to wear their mask. Where we started out at that first week, we had our little kids were having a lot of difficulty wearing masks, where now as we're finishing up, the majority our kids are wearing their masks almost the entire time. And I know it's only 4 hours and whatnot, but it is a positive way of looking at, that dipping the toe in the water. And that's what we wanted to try and do so we would know what we're going to do. One of the things within special education is a student's IEP or individualized education plan drives the modifications that they will need for their curriculum. And it also drives their services. So one of the things we need to do, and one I would really implore the board we need a decision, is we have to revise almost 300 IEPs at the beginning of school. And we need a clear direction of which way we're going so we can revise those IEPs. It doesn't matter what model we're in, we need to revise IEPs because how we had them at the end of last year, the state is now saying they have to be revised. So so we're really looking at how we're going to be responding based on a decision tonight. Any delay is going to delay how we provide services for kids, and that's a legal issue. We are looking, just as Dr. Carey was talking about, with the smaller groups, we can push our case managers into classrooms more and support kids in the classroom, which then can also free up some paraprofessionals to support kids on the off days when they're home. And so we're looking at a very similar model that we were using during the dismissal last year of support for kids when they're not in the classroom, using paraprofessionals, but also using case managers. Case managers will also be touch base with kids on Wednesday and with families. The same would go for related services. We would do a blend of remote, but also in person with our related service folks. And again, it would look different. And that's where we have to sit down and revise each IEP with the families and with the team to have that discussion of what's it going to look like. But we're looking at how if we can push into a cohort and not pull kids out, that's what we're going to try and do the most we can. But we may have to do some individuality of whatnot. There may be incidents where a team might decide, if we're in a hybrid model, that more than 2 days is appropriate for that student. And that would be a discussion that we would have as a team and make on an individual basis, using data to drive what we're making decisions for. So that's how we're approaching it. It's been a lot of waiting for us. We've got contingency plans based on decisions, but we're ready to move forward.
Thank you, Andy. Chris, is there anything else before I invite direct questions from board members to you?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Once again, I'm going to shake it up just a little bit. Lynn Morgan, do you have any direct questions for Chris Pratt or Lynn or Andy?
Yes. The Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, what do the A group do on Thursday, Friday, and the B group do on Monday, Tuesday? Is that online learning? Or was it clear?
Yes. So the A group will meet on Mondays and Tuesdays. Everyone will meet on Wednesday. The idea is to have a curriculum that doesn't have to be repeated. Everyone will get the same curriculum on Wednesdays. And then the B group will come on Thursdays and Fridays and do the same curriculum that was done on Mondays and Wednesdays. When the students are not in school on the alternate times, they will be having assignments to do at home, projects to do at home, and extension activities to practice what they're learning. We also have some technology programs. We have a program that a computer program, they will be able to practice their skills, and the teacher will assign different, pieces of work on that. Again, the students will all have computers the same way they did earlier in the spring, so they'll be able to access those online resources that we will also have for those days they're not in school.
Good. So in reality, they are getting 5 days of lessons.
Most definitely, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A mixture of online and in person.
Yes, that's true.
Anything else, Lynn?
No, I'm just, along with everybody else, so thankful for all the work that has been put into this and all the comments that have been made tonight. It's really broadened my perspective of what's actually going on. And thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Lynn. George Smith, questions for either Lynn or Chris or Andy?
Yes, please. Lynn, you just said that there's going to be instruction on the off days. If I recall the other night, that was not what I was told. Can you clarify that they're on the off days when kids are not in school, they're going to have instruction from a teacher?
What they're going to have, the teacher will make plans for the whole week like they always do. What will happen is they will make 2 in-school plans, one plan for everybody for Wednesday, and 2 days of out of school plans. So what will happen is they will be teaching in person on 2 days. Each pod, we call them pods, will be getting 2 days of in-face instruction. We're hoping to push the reading and the math. And the days they're not in, they will have assignments to do. They will have resources that they've taken home and need to do then to return to school. And they will also have digital resources to work from. So they will be very occupied. Yes, they will continue to be occupied doing their learning practices and their learning skills on the days that they are not in school. So particularly when we're talking about 3rd, 4th, 5th, and up, they can be working on research or reports or learning. Definitely there's going to be reading, and when you read, we're going to ask them to write about their reading so that they can extend their practices, their knowledge base in that. So it's true.
Okay.
They will have instruction. They won't have face-to-face because they'll be home, but they will know what they're having to do because it will be explained in the classroom by the teacher before they have their days of remote learning. And on Wednesday, the teacher will have a lesson for the kids that will set them up for that day.
Yeah, what's your next question, George?
I'm sorry.
I said, what's your next question, George?
Can I add to George's?
I appreciate that.
Is that now? Keep in mind that also it's like I said the other night, we're not talking direct instruction on those days. It's like Lynn said, we're talking about lessons to be provided for the kids, and many of the schools are going to have counselors and interventionists and sped support. And
sorry,
a lot of most kids are still going to have those supports in place in having, like I said, interventionists and counselors and special ed supports reaching out to them on those remote days. So it might not be instruction, but if they have questions, they will have that. Keep in mind, we still have to find a way to take attendance for these students as well. So even on the remote days, it might look similar to what it did when we were in closure, and all kids, no matter where they are, would have to start the day with their classroom, whether they're home or in the building. So I just wanted to add to that.
Thank you. That's more of what I was looking for.
George, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, George.
No, I was just saying thank you. That was more of what I was looking for. If basically most kids aren't self-motivated, they're just going to do work. So that's what I was looking for, is that there will be somebody somewhere in this grand cyberspace that will be able to assist them. I know I had another one here. Bear with me. So I saw something in the comments earlier that was a question, and I just wanted to know if you could clarify for everybody. I think I already know the answer, but I wanted you to clarify. Is this a hybrid option with the option to do full homeschool if people need to, or is this a one or the other?
No, what we're trying to do, George, is with the most recent amendments to the procedures that we're offering the hybrid solution for the first 6 weeks, and if we are able to get the Vermont virtual learning done, it would be done through the school. We'd have certain teachers that are tied to that program, and so we're trying to make sure that that we have to get the attendance into the state next week so they know which kids are doing that. So it's not one or the other. We're trying to offer both. But it's for this. It's really we're really looking to it. The high school has always had the virtual learning and teachers tied to that. So now we're adding the elementary and the middle school piece to that. So it's not one or the other. We're hoping to have both.
If they choose to go with the Vermont virtual learning collaborative, that would be a commitment at least until for the whole fall semester. And they would have a chance to change over to classroom if all of a sudden there's no more COVID and they want to go back to school. But that would happen at the spring, because you don't want to interrupt their learning. But yeah, it's one or the other. Now, you're saying homeschooling. I don't want to confuse virtual learning from the Vermont Collaborative, the AOE program, with homeschooling. Homeschooling is when a parent takes care of the curriculum and does that themselves. This one, the curriculum's done, the teachers that will volunteer, the curriculum will be done, all those great resources. It's a great learning program, but that is a commitment at least until the spring semester or the winter semester.
Yes, thank you for correcting my verbiage. I definitely said it wrong. Were there any parents involved in the task force?
No, there were no parents involved in the task force.
Okay. I just wanted to point out my one last thing, well, maybe two, but first thing, a teacher, I don't remember who it was, I apologize, but I appreciate your comment. After you spaced out your room, that a student in elementary level would be potentially 30 feet away. I don't think I really need to mention anything more on that. That's pretty self-explanatory. And also, that I had no burning desire to be sitting here with you all tonight. It was something that was duty driven, and I appreciate all the efforts, and I'm sorry for everybody that is going to be ticked off one way or the other with the result of the evening. As somebody close to me said recently, there is absolutely no very good option for everybody, and that's where I conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Brenda Farkas, are you with us? And do you have questions for Chris or Lynn or Andy?
Yes, so I have a question. So you're saying that every student in the district does have a computer and internet available to them to do the list. I had a family that I worked with before did not have that available to them, not in the state. And the library was their resource. So if we have all these restrictions, I just wanted to know, how is that being, everybody does have that available?
Yeah, that was one of the first things we did, Brenda, as soon as school was out, is that we identified families who had maybe connectivity issues, and those names actually got sent to 2 different departments at the state so they can identify those areas. But with our schools, our administrators and our teachers, they are so on top of that in regards to knowing the families who need support. And for them, it's my understanding, the last time I spoke with the principals, is that they have it under control and families are identified, and we have ways to make sure that they're getting access. And no matter what learning looks like, we're still providing the, whether it's through VTLC, they choose that, we're still having all the peripherals and the computer needs that they need to make sure they have an online learning.
Yeah, I thought you had addressed that earlier, and I just wanted to make sure. And the other question was, will there be FaceTime with this type of, like if it's remote learning, will there be the FaceTime visits with the teachers for the younger kids? Or like, how does the interaction happen in the hybrid model?
Well, I mean, in the hybrid model, yes, they would be, we're looking at, they'd probably be FaceTime in the mornings because we need to take attendance. That's our best way to do it, is that would look similar to what we did in the springtime, is that no matter where you are, you would log on. If the teacher's in the classroom, it would be the rest of the class. It might look a little different for the high school in regards to how they take attendance because they're not in one class all day. But there would be some sort of FaceTime that we would hope that kids would have. In addition to that, like I said, you would have counselors and nurses and teachers. I mean, checking in with students. I mean, the teachers, the paras, everyone did such a fantastic job of checking in with families and students on a regular basis when we were in closure.
Yeah.
I don't have any reason to believe that they would do anything other than that. They've just done an exceptional job throughout this whole.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Jason, Terry, questions?
Yeah, I saw it in the chat earlier from Carrie Kennedy. She said that she measured the central school rooms today and no room to fit. And I assumed that the task force had looked at all these options, would have been helpful to know this on Monday when we were begging for solutions. And I'm just, thank you, Carrie, for doing that. Keep up the great work. We were told that there was plenty of room at the central school. So if I personally would have known that, I might have had a different opinion on Monday. So
I can respond to that. At no point were you told there was plenty of room at any of the schools. And second is, yes, the task force did look at the layout of the rooms in regards to what was needed. What you guys got into on the other night, you would have had, that information wasn't available because it wasn't on the agenda. So you continue to say you don't have information, you're not getting the information. It's because it's not information ready for you to have because it's not in the agenda. I go by the agendas that are approved and sent. If you guys want to add the agenda, you can't expect to have information on something that was never there. But at no time were you ever told that any school had more than ample space. The task force did look at all the rooms. You want to, so I just wanted to make that clear.
So you didn't say the high school had plenty of room, and the only thing in question was the middle school?
No, I said the high school at the time when I spoke with the principal, if we had to, we could put 8th graders into the gymnasium. But if it's in the gymnasium, we're still going to have troubles with the optimal temperatures. So no, I never, whatever you're saying, no, I did not.
Okay, thank you.
What else do we have?
Nothing.
We're doing a round robin.
I'm starting with the voting members, Jack, and I am working my way over to the non-voting members tonight. Cheryl, I would like to hear from you, please.
Sure, I have one question, I think for Chris or Lynn. This has to do with the remote learning option from the, I don't remember the name, the Vermont Learning Collaborative, Computer Learning Collaborative, whatever. But one of the pieces of information we were giving was that first of all, as a result of the survey, the 93 students were said to be interested. Chris, you had indicated there might only be room for 100. Is there any latitude to have more if more families do wish for the 100% remote option, which does still allow for these kids to be part of the supervisory union, part of their school, and they still get to see their classmates, at least through Zoom? But is there any way to deal with that number of 100?
Yeah, we're looking to get that up by adding more. You know, we want to identify teachers that really fall into the category of the COVID expectations that they can't come back to school, but we want to keep them around. So we're really trying. We want to identify those teachers and get as many as we can. Open up slots for every one teacher. It's 20 to 25 slots of students. So we're looking to up that. And so that was something Lynn and I were working on today based on the meeting from the other night, because we want to get those numbers up, because we're seeing as the days go on, you see more and more people interested in the remote instruction. So, I think the only thing holding us up right now is if, we get more students that want it than we have slots for, then that'll be a tough one. That's why we're really focusing on the students that have health issues, or someone in their immediate family that they live with have health issues that really would, no matter what the option was, would not be able to come to school. So that's who we want to start with. But yeah, we're looking to try to find ways to increase the seats for the kids, so anyone who wants them will have them.
So Cheryl, what I've done, and actually I just had to cancel it because there's been no vote yet. I had a survey going out again to all the families of the SU, again, actually saying, if you are really, if you're interested in this program, fill out your name, your address, your student's name, your grade, what school you're affiliated with, so that I can really get a true number. Now, I've already seen that people are saying, what am I, mute? No, I'm not. Am I? No.
No, you're not mute, Lynn. You're doing a great job.
You're fine.
Oh, thank you. So what I've seen is, that's only going to give us 4 days. And that is the truth. I'm asking to have them back on Tuesday, because I have to turn that whole entire report around the next day to the state or to the Vermont Virtual Learning Academy. I also have one ready to go to the teachers, the certified teachers. There are teachers that I'm not going to name, but there are teachers who really do not feel, for whatever reason, they have a medical reason, they have people in their family they're worried about bringing it home to, or they have childcare issues. These are the people that, if they're certified teachers, I would like to give them this opportunity. This opportunity to teach with the Vermont Virtual Learning Academy is amazing because they provide the curriculum, they provide the resources, they provide all the work. All the teacher is going, well, not all, the teacher's developing a relationship with the students. What I was told was that Virtual Learning Academy will prioritize our teachers to work with our students. And
Right.
they will be able to have a morning meeting with their class, the class they would have been in if there had been no COVID. So I'm hoping that would happen on Wednesday. We haven't firmed up anything. So the long story short is, this is a great program. The teachers have to commit for a full year. Students, 1 semester. However, there is there's 3 courses that are involved, and it's all embedded in the work they're doing. So they would start out, and then they would do a portfolio of what they've learned, and then they would take another course about bridging that gap, and then finally they would do a practicum, which is essentially what they're doing. So that is $3,600. I'm hoping I can get CARES money to pay for the tuition for these teachers who are willing to make a commitment to work at home. You know, there are flexible hours. What it involves is working at home. You're going to give 1 lesson a week on 1 content, and then you lay out the whole week for the kids, but you call the kids every other day. So if you have, 15 kids in your class, you're calling 7 on A day, 7 on B day, the first 7 A's on A day and B day. There's also, the district will also provide a coordinator who will call the parents or the families once a week. So if we have 100 families, we're going to hire someone or have someone on staff that can't be actually in the classroom, that would call these families once a week to make sure everything's going smoothly. How do you feel? Are your kids learning? What can we do to help? So what I'm saying is, this backing from the Vermont Virtual Learning Academy is phenomenal. These teachers, the curriculum's there, the resources are there. And there's also, there's pen and paper stuff so that they would have, they would print it out if they could, or they can mail them home. But it's a really great opportunity for teachers who are interested in taking this opportunity, as well as for our students who really, the parents really feel it necessary to keep them home for 100% remote learning, but keep them connected with their friends on a Zoom meeting once a week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Cheryl?
No, that was my question. Thank you very much. Well, I guess I would make a quick point to assert this, just to say quickly that the teachers who are working with the children in the hybrid model are not doing this. They're fully focused on the children who are coming to the building, and then they're supporting the other 3 days of the school week. So this is a separate program offered through the supervisory union for those who want a fully remote option. I'm just asking. Verify that, please.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Cheryl?
No, thank you.
I want to issue a clarifier here, if I may. As the Union High School's representative to the River Valley Technical Center, I have been working with what is actually the Vermont Virtual Learning Cooperative since its inception, which I think is about 12 years now. The Tech Center, RVTC, River Valley Technical Center, is actually home base, at least at this point in time, for VTVLC. And if we have people who are now very interested in what VTVLC is up to, and mind you, it began as an on-demand online high school for Vermont, you can go to vtvlc.org and get quite a bit more information. She did a great job, by the way, with her presentation. It is really, truly a dynamic program. And AOE tasked the director, Jeff Renard, to expand it radically so that we could cover K through 12 and not simply high school age kids. I'm going to ask you, Priscilla, if you have questions. Are you with me, Priscilla? I'm going to come back to Priscilla, and I am going to ask Deb Wright if you have questions, Deb.
I'm not sure, based upon what I saw on the chat from Chris Pratt, whether or not there was any point, because it seems a fait accompli here, and that there is no real choice. We are blowing off steam, but in reality, we don't have a choice. And that is what I'm seeing here. I'm greatly concerned about the students. I'm greatly concerned about students who have drug-addicted parents who are forced now to be home and will continue to be so even during the school year, when I would anticipate they would have a safe haven. So I really don't have any questions, since it doesn't appear that we have any choice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deb. Jessa West Clark, then I'll go back and see if Priscilla is still here. Jessa, question?
Yeah, Priscilla, I think, is having issues with her mute button.
Okay.
Did you fix it, Priscilla?
Yeah.
Do you want? You can go.
Oh, well, it sounds like
Either
Jessa.
way, Jessa.
Thank you, Priscilla. So we're ready.
Okay. Jessa, if you asked me for information, I do apologize. I did not get an email from you seeing that because I did get an email from every email that I got today. I tried to answer today. There was one person that I couldn't open hers, so I didn't answer that one. So let me at least start with that. Let me comment too. You made some comments on Georgia. My niece is in Georgia and she's starting school with her class full time. And not all the students are coming and they are distancing. So they're doing the same thing that we're doing here. Tennessee, my grandchildren have been in school and in daycare all the time that they've been there because my daughter is working there. Florida, high COVID, as all of you know. Some of the districts are closed. My daughter's district, which is right above that, they're open with a choice. They can do virtual or in school. They have a 4-week option where they do that for 4 weeks, and then they will look at it and they can change. They cannot change during that time. Hybrid guidelines emphasize the difference there's a difference in schools and in the school districts. And the school districts need to be accounting for diversity of the youth. If we go with a full hybrid, like was suggested from primary up through high school, we're not providing that. And that's not in the hybrid guidelines. So that kind of flabbergasted me when I got the information on the hybrid only on this Monday. And I was on the task force and on 2 of the subcommittees. I can't say that enough times. It was never presented to me as a member of that task force. So I don't know where. In fact, our academic committee mentioned 3 half days and then going to full time. And I have that in writing. I have that in the document that we made out and submitted to the superintendent on that Friday when they were due. So it surprises me for him to keep commenting that all 47, 48, 50, whatever it is, members worked on that hybrid model, because it was a shock to me to see it. I'm seeing in the chat room that a lot of parents are saying, that there was one in particular, that 2 days of instruction and then a remote and 2 days of homework lessons was not nearly as good as the virtual one that's being presented today. And the virtual one certainly does provide you a lot of options with contact with teachers. I will comment on that. Our special needs kids can go 4 days under the hybrid plan, while our other kids who also need this time in school are kept from doing that. That bothers me. Tuberculosis has been around for many years. Anybody who works in a hospital, as I know from firsthand experience in my own home here with someone who is now going and working in a hospital, has to be tested for tuberculosis. It is a disease and it does kill people as well. And so there are other things out there besides this COVID that we're going to work on. Are we going to worry about everyone and stay out of school forever? It's a good question. Oh, 5.5 hours is what is required for children in grades not K. Theirs is lower. First and second is lower. In grades 3 through 12, 5.5 hours of instruction on a daily basis are what is required for children to be receiving. And I know they've relaxed the requirements, but the hybrid does not provide for that. I understand the problems in opening, but school districts have the authority to make those decisions, and only the school districts have the authority. That was in the directive that was sent out again yesterday by the AOE. So asking for a vote tonight is not something that we should even be considering. It is not a legal option for what is being done. I can read it right off the DOE comment. School districts will have the authority to decide which instructional dispositions will be implemented in their schools. It's right there. Right there. It's underlined. You know, and to ignore, I do not want that ignored. I was accused in the chat of ignoring something in my stuff by the Rockingham board, which surprised me because I said nothing about not following the guidelines of social distancing and following those guidelines. What I do want is I really want to know the numbers of the parents that will be planning to be in the schools. If we can get that before school start, we can make a decision sooner. But if we have to wait to that first week, then we should wait to that first week so that we know what we're dealing with. Because if you've got a class that normally holds, like I know there's some in Grafton that normally holds 10 or 11, and only 3 parents are going to send their kids, you're going to have 2 on one day, on the 2 first days of the week maybe, and 1 the other day. That's really kind of silly. And that's what we're looking at. And that's what we absolutely have to know to be able to plan to open the schools and plan to get ready for school to start. Providing a 5-day program does not force any parent to send their child. A hybrid plan does not say what happens after 6 weeks either. I would think that we're heading into maybe flu season and we're heading into, a later thing. And there's probably going to be a push to just continue that. I don't think that 2 days of instruction for 6 weeks, which is 12 days instead of 5 times 6, 30 days, provides nearly the educational program that I would want my child to be in. It's really disconcerting to me from that standpoint. And that's kind of why I'm kind of pushing for the other, finding out the numbers and then going from there. Dr. Fauci did say that children should be in school. And I heard what was being said, but Dr. Fauci did say that they should be in school. I am listening to this group of parents, yes. But what about that half of that 83% that Chris Hodgson said they wanted their kids in school, and half of those said they wanted their kids in school full time? There's a reason they want them there. They want them to get their education. And I recognize that, social issues may be your top priority, and that's okay. And if so, then, maybe 2 days a week is enough, but a first grader is not going to easily learn to read in 2 days a week. Kindergartners can fare better, and preschoolers definitely, because they are under that kind of a program anyway. But our primary students, I think, deserve a little more education than what's being proposed under this plan. Yeah.
A point of order. This is Cheryl Charles. I wonder if the chairman, David, are you still connected?
I am still connected, and I was taking the time to hear Priscilla.
Okay, thank you.
So it's not at all inattention on my part, because I always pay attention when Priscilla is speaking, because I have a great deal of respect for her as an educator and a board colleague. Jess, I'm going to ask you if you have questions. Thank you for yielding your time to Priscilla. We're going to be back to you. Then I want to check in with Jack and Margot and Melissa. So are you ready, Jessa?
I am ready, and I do have a few questions. One of the things I agree with Priscilla on is that it's not been made clear the 3 days of remote learning is definitely not remote instruction, because the teachers for those kids will be teaching the in-person class on Thursday, Friday. So there is that sort of discrepancy. Lynn had said 5 days of lessons, but I don't think those are lessons. Lynn, you also made mention of project-based learning, and I don't know if that's exactly what you meant, because that's a very specific thing that we have yet to introduce into our elementary schools, as far as I know, or at least not all of them. Heidi Chase was talking about parents' choice earlier, and I do agree there needs to be choices for parents, but there's also, we have a lot of parents that are refusing to accept the liability of their travel to far off lands that they're doing right now. And it should be parents' choice to not have their kids in school with their kids too. The other couple questions I had was, well, one, so the high school, A group and B group, 2 days in, 3 days out, they can't get all their classes in 2 days, but there's not going to be actual remote instruction, or is the high school going to be taught differently than the elementary and middle grades?
Mr. Clark, I can speak to that if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, sir. Chris, you are recognized.
So what I am directing my teachers to do is to develop lessons and instructional strategies, and we have ways to do that. I can probably elaborate more on this at the high school board meeting, but in which the students that are at home will connect with their teachers, and we have the capacity to live stream some of that. It's not necessarily going to be that, because we also have a number of teachers who actually are trained and qualified to teach VTVLC and online lessons. So while I'm saying we have the capacity, that's not necessarily the one and only way that students will engage with direct instruction on all 5 days, but suffice it to say that we have ways to pull that off. And there was a comment in here, I think, about videoing students. That would not involve videoing students. That would involve live streaming the instruction, and if anybody, then just the teacher. But we do have ways to pull that off.
Thank you, Chris.
David, Molly's been having her hand up for kind of a while. I don't know if you missed
In
her.
just a minute. The only other question, well, there's so many questions, but the other question I had regarding the online option through VTVLC is that the initial information given to the board, we were talking about numbers of seats, because part of the agreement with VTVLC is that we provide a teacher for X number of children, 15 or 20 that sign up for that. And then Lynn made mention of offering the slots with VTVLC first to teachers who might have health issues that would keep them out of classrooms, etc. But is that going to be acceptable to the unions? Is that fair to the teachers? Have those issues been ironed out yet? And if we get 300 or 400 kids who want that option, how is the rest of the district going to get by with that number of teachers committed to VTVLC for a year? I don't know if that was answered for us as well. And I guess my final thing as a board member, I know there was around 50 people on this committee, which honestly I think is too big for an effective committee. But I mean, as Priscilla mentioned, there was information she didn't get. The plan as presented to us initially was really more of a set of guidelines, not a plan on how they were going to get there. There was deliverable items that were listed as being something they wanted, but not a plan as to how those were actually going to happen. I'm assuming there's a more detailed plan coming out, but even something as simple as the temperature screenings that we're required to do before kids get on the bus, people were wondering if that was going to be paras, if we were going to have to hire back paras, if that was going to be a different group, if the paras were even qualified to do that or willing to do that. And none of those questions have been answered for us so far as boards that are going to be voting on these plans. And I'm hoping there's more information forthcoming very soon for everyone involved, because these are just huge decisions for our families. And as Deb pointed out, we have families that are not in places where they can make these decisions. And I'm hoping everyone will end up getting what they need eventually, but I'm just worried that won't happen.
David, you would like me to respond?
Yes, please, Chris.
So as far as the teachers, like I said before, it's changed since the Rockingham meeting because we're trying to find as many slots as we can. And in regards to the teachers, is that we're not forcing any teachers to do anything different. What we're trying to do is keep them employed, because their option is under the new Leave Act, under the COVID that they passed. It wouldn't benefit us losing them as teachers or them financially. So we want to work with those teachers first. And if, so we're not forcing them, they would agree to it. So as far as the other part that you talked about was with the paras and the screening and everything, I can't ask and hire paras back until I know what the plan is. And I can't know what what parents are going to want to do until they have a plan. Parents can't decide what route they're going to take until it's offered to them. If you offer, if you took and said, I'm going to offer out, everyone's going to go back to school, well, the parents are going to, we're going to have a much different view of how many kids are coming back. We say we have the hybrid, we're going to get a different amount of kids. We can't move forward until the board makes a decision, because I know you want those answers, but we can't get those answers until we have a plan in place. So, yes, as far as the plan, it is a plan. It's not, no plan right now is going to be perfect. And if it's not in there, it's cited in there. And that's, the sites are saying this is how we're going about doing the screening. If the plan is approved, or whatever plan is approved, and we have kids coming back on any level, is that it's, as the state says, they have to be screened at the first point of contact. First point of contact would mean they would need to be screened before they get on the bus with the temperatures. And, if whatever plan is approved, we'd be using para-educators to be health monitors on the bus. They'd be assigned to a nurse. And then when they're on the bus, we could use them in the schools. But we're at a standstill until we know what direction the board wants to go.
I think that's part of the disconnect, that we were expecting a fully fleshed out plan, only because if we vote for a particular option, although it's the local boards doing the voting, and we say we want to do this, and we give it back to get the actual plan, what happens if you come back and say, sorry, we don't have the staff to do that?
But I can understand what you're saying.
I mean, I know, but
problem. It's the chicken or the egg. It's like the plan that you have is the plan. There's no other plan on the back burner in regards to how we're going to do things. Anything, the plan is in there, and we'll be following all the state guidelines and the CDC guidelines for screening, for social distancing, for temperature taking, everything. But we can't move forward with getting more people in place until we know whatever the plan is, whether it's the hybrid or whatever is.
So you didn't work out all three plans fully?
No, because based on the information we had in working with all the task force, and I might add that is that the academic team, they did propose some sort of hybrid. It might not have been the exact hybrid that they wanted, but it wasn't just up to the academic team to make that decision. It was up to all the task force. I received all their draft work. They got it to me, and based on all the information there, all the data I'm receiving from parents, the best option was the hybrid plan. And the data shows it is pretty much well split. We have about 100 families right now who would take 100% remote option, and we have about 160 families, who had taken the survey would want a hybrid option, and another almost dead even would want the 100% in. We went with the hybrid model because we cannot have all the kids in all the buildings and meet the social guideline rules. And if we can't have kids in the buildings because we can't not meet the social distancing rules, then that's not even an option. So you have two options. You have the hybrid option, and you have the total remote option that we've been working on, but with improvements. And because I can't come up with an option if it's not following state guidelines. I can't put people in buildings and putting them too many in there would put them less than 6 feet or even 3 feet. So you should have the two options. You already have the hybrid option, and previously you had the full remote option.
Okay. And then the last thing, is people really want to see a mock-up of the classroom. We know there's a lot of things that need to be removed and desks moved around. And I think there's a lot of parents that want to see what that's going to look like because they don't know what to expect, especially after seeing the back to school video from Florida, showing what it's going to be like for their kids, maintaining distancing and the screening and what their classroom's going to look like. If we could try to get that, it would be fantastic. And then I think this has been asked already. What is the SU board actually voting on one of these plans? Because plans need to be approved by local districts from what the AOE said. However, the SU provides special ed for all the districts.
Well, yes, that is accurate. The role of the SU board with the representation from each board, they should be able to approve it because that's why you vote members onto the SU board to make these decisions. Because I'll put it this way, if there's not some sort of, if we don't make a decision tonight, that's why I said if you can't make a decision on the hybrid, then I would ask that the board say, now the decision is we're 100% remote. Because we're up against a deadline here. It's not fair to any of the educators in the building who are trying to.
They can't make that decision.
In the school. Go ahead. I'm done.
Okay, Jessa, any further questions?
No, I'm all set. If you could just clarify on what the SU board votes on.
Well, we're evolving in that direction, Jessup. That is a discussion we're going to have before the vote, and we will have that discussion. That's presuming we have a vote tonight. I still have a few people to get to here, and then we'll get down to the question of vote. Molly Bannock, are you in the room?
Yes.
You are recognized, Molly.
So I know I'm not a voting member of the SU, but I'm the chair of the high school board, and I've listened to this whole meeting and read all the things that Chris sent to us. And I think as a board member, I have a pretty good idea of what administration and teachers and parents are all going to go through and what we have to do to get our children into school. And I've heard all of this tonight, and it's almost time where we need to move on, but I wanted my chance too. So I'm a believer right now of the hybrid. I think we need to try. I think that it's not fair we're disrespecting the 45 people that worked for 2 months on this program if we don't at least try it. We have to get Priscilla, stop. I can see you, I can see you, just give me my time. We have had all summer and we worked and everybody has done the best they can. There's so many rules that we have to go by. This isn't just because, we don't want our children in school. Of course we want our children in school. If anybody has an agenda of why they're on a school board, that's what everybody says. We all have an agenda. Well, my agenda is to educate every kid to the fullest we can. So do I think the perfect thing is for them to be home 2 to 3 days a week? Absolutely not. But I just had a little girl graduate from our schools, and if she was in school right now, I would be supporting the hybrid. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Jack Breyer.
There we go. Yeah. I think that one of the things that we're looking at a lot of the flaws in this program, and Lynn and Chris, to be honest, it's kind of a mess. But I think to be fair, the other states have provided their administrators with fully fleshed out cookbooks. The guidance manual for options from New York State runs over 150 pages. I don't think Lynn or Chris have got a 150-page cookbook from anybody. I think that they were asked to improvise this program sort of while they're trying to do everything else. And while at certain points it looks it, I hope that my fellow board members will be a little more forgiving for the fact that it's not very complete and probably isn't going to be until September 7th. It's just reality. Now, we can be critical of the fact that it isn't very complete, that there are a lot of holes in it. There are a lot of things what ifs that haven't been worked through, but they do need at least some sort of framework from which they can continue to plan. That's really is a role for the SU. The SU by law has responsibility for curriculum. What we are talking about is curriculum and instruction. The curriculum and instruction base level curriculum instruction program for the SU. That is our job. We can't say, oh gosh, we'd like somebody else to do it. It's our job. Individual districts can refine and improve on, ask for modifications, but we can't have a different plan for each school because we have employees, teachers that are hired by contract, paras that need to know what the plan is, a special ed staff that need to know a framework. We can't build 4 different programs. There just isn't the bandwidth to do it, and it wouldn't be a good idea anyway. So the only thing I would ask my administrators to bear in mind is not to get too rigid about these plans. You guys are improvising and we'll be right down to the last moment. I hope that you can find ways to accommodate parents that will also be trying to revise their decision and may continue to do so. In college, they let you take a course for a week or 2 and drop out and change your course. And I think that maybe we need to be thinking about ways to accommodate parents that aren't really sure and won't be sure as of tonight what plan they want to be in. They don't necessarily want to be stuck teaching at home. They don't know anything about the learning collaborative and whether it's really right for them. They haven't tried the hybrid model because nobody's tried the hybrid model. And we need to be able to give parents a chance to try before you buy, and asking people right off the bat on the first day to commit to a full semester of program X versus program Y, I think probably is unrealistic and unfair. And I hope that you can find ways to make certain that parents who try something and find it's not working for them can make a switch fairly early in the program without forcing them to be there for a whole semester. That's all I got.
Thank you, Jack. Margot? Gia?
Thank you, David. I think Jessa addressed the question that I was going to ask about having support staff to assist and having enough staffing in the buildings. I think no matter what model is chosen, that we're going to need, despite the budgets, we're going to need the support in the classrooms to help with every child being able to progress and learn and move forward. And if we don't have adequate staffing, whether it's in the classrooms directly or taking the temperatures or on the buses, we're going to run into severe difficulties and have high burnout among staff that are in the building. So no matter what model we go with, I guess I'm going to encourage that all the boards be thinking about that, despite what our budgets might currently look like, we are going to have to be supporting our staff that are in the buildings with appropriate levels of staffing. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Marga. Melissa Karlstrom, are you with us?
I am. I guess I just want to reiterate that in the document, it's that August 11th is the final day that anyone can sign up for remote instruction. And I think that is an important date for everybody on the call to hear that that is in our document. And you only have a few days if that's what you want. And I think my biggest concern with the plan as it is right now is about our workforce and our staff retention as well. And I think that the school ought to consider providing childcare for their teachers and paras and children so that we can make sure that they go to school and that the teachers can be there. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Melissa. I've tried to moderate the meeting tonight and not be part of the discussion, but I am going to make some comments now. I want to back up 10 or 12 years. I know that Jack Breyer will remember this. There was a point in time where the Union High School Board discussed opening an 8th grade academy. And that would have been for the high flyers at the middle school, 8th graders, obviously, who were socially, emotionally, and academically ready to take on the rigors of high school work. There was a financial angle to that because if they came up as 8th graders and did our 8th grade academy, in the practical matter, they would graduate from high school in 3 years, which would have been a savings for taxpayers. I mention that because this is one of those out-of-the-box ideas that maybe needs to have another look. We've had discussion about the outdoor model for schooling. I haven't seen anything fleshed out on that, but I'm certainly hoping that irregardless of the model that we choose, short of complete remote instruction, that gets serious consideration. I want to say, and I have to be upfront with the board about this, and that is that I do agree with Priscilla about the importance of the continuity of particularly K-6 programming. And I actually hold the belief that it's maybe more important to get them in on a full-time basis, adequately distant, than it is to have your high school kids in the high school, because I think the high school kids, by and large, would be able to handle a remote program. And if that created sufficient space so that we could really do the work with the early elementary that needs doing, I think that would be a benefit. I have a question as to exactly what the transportation plan looks like. I agree once again with Priscilla that we do need to know what the actual numbers are, but I also realize that that will be highly contingent on what the board decides to do tonight. I do have concerns about what the status of our PPE supplies are. That's personal protective equipment. Sorry for the jargon there, but probably most people know that already. And I have real concerns about the adequacy for that. I also happen to believe that ultimately policy decisions are vested with the local boards. And it is entirely possible that we could end the night with a decision by the WNESU board that would not not meet the expectations of a local board who might decide to move in a different direction. That's a real concern for me because I think it does get back to some questions around equity, as well as obviously the staffing component. And I would hate like heck to set one district up for the ire of, well, particularly staff members, because they would feel that there was an inequity there as well. However, in spite of all of my reservations, I do happen to agree with Chris Pratt that we really need to act on it now, because we have a drop dead date coming Tuesday in terms of signups for full remote instruction, and it will not be possible to determine either the numbers of kids who are going to be in school or the staffing that will be necessary to support them unless this board makes a decision tonight. So with all of my reservations and my concerns for the legitimate concerns of Rockingham School Board, and believe me, I have a huge amount of empathy for those, I would like to entertain a motion now to approve the administration school reentry plan.
Point of order before you do that. We
Yes.
do not have the authority to do that, okay? And so I definitely object. We could find out by simply asking parents to commit and giving them the choice. Tell us, will they send their child in a hybrid? Will they send their child in the other? They could say yes to both, they can say no to both, then we would have the numbers. And with the union board, elementary union board meeting tomorrow, they would be able to make their decision, which is appropriate because that's based on what the directive is. Then the high school meets on Monday. Chris has already indicated, that could be very different. So it's, and with 83% saying they would want their children in school, but it being half and half, hybrid and full, we never found out if they'd send them under each. And that's what we need to know.
Okay.
Because that would tell us what we can do. And we wouldn't have to commit to this program or the other.
Order is recognized here. And as chair, I'm going to poll the members, the voting members here, as to whether they wish to overrule the chair's move to seek a vote or not. So, Jason Terry, do you support the chair's call for a vote?
Yes, I do. And Priscilla, sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Let it go.
I'm going to ask members to address their comments to the chair. Okay, Priscilla?
No, because my board said that I was to vote a certain way anyway, and this is not an appropriate time to take a vote.
Thank you, Priscilla. George Smith?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Brenda Farkas?
Yes.
Deb Wright? I'm going to come back to Deb, and I'm going to do Union Elementary. Cheryl Charles?
Yes.
Thank you. Lynn Morgan?
Yes.
Jessa Westpark?
Yes.
Deb, are you with us?
Yeah, and my vote is no.
No. Okay. Have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yes. I have 2 no. So the chair is sustained in calling for a motion to approve the school reentry plan. Would like to have a member make a motion on that, please.
Lynn Morgan, I make a motion that we approve the plan.
Okay. Do I have a second?
That the plan that includes the option for virtual learning?
Yes, it would include the full remote option, George.
Thank you.
I'm a second. David, this is Cheryl.
I have a motion and a second. It's my belief that after 3 hours of discussion that board members are fully informed on the question. So therefore, I'm going to roll call members now and ask you how you vote. Brenda Farkas?
Yes to the hybrid.
Thank you. Deb Wright?
No.
No. Okay. Jason Terry?
Yes.
Thank you. Priscilla?
No, my board said no.
Okay. George Smith?
Yes.
Cheryl Charles?
Yes.
Lynn Morgan?
Yes.
Jessa West Clark?
Yes.
Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Help me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. I'm showing 2 no, which is confusing to me because I thought I had everyone represented here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 yes and 2 no. So the motion does carry. And I once again want to thank all of the members for their very hard work tonight, as well as a very unusual, not for this board, but certainly a high degree of collegiality, which is important. I'm going to ramble just a little bit further here and say that I think it is extremely important for administration to fill in the gaps, which have been pointed out tonight by a number of members. I'm also hopeful that administration will be able to react more quickly to changing conditions on the ground than simply waiting 6 weeks to see what happens. I'm hopeful that if conditions are favorable, we can at least reopen for the younger kids as soon as possible. And I can't begin to say how much I appreciate the fact that 188 people are still in the room at this hour, because it's been a tremendously long discussion. We do have a couple more items to take care of. Item 7 is old business, business office and audit update. Chris, where are we with that? Chris Pratt?
I've invited the auditors to attend the next WNESU board meeting at the end of the month. So at that point, any board members can ask questions in regards to the SU audit or individual school audits.
Okay, thank you, Chris. As always, if there are agenda items that board members would like to have considered at the next meeting, I'm going to ask you to get those in either to Chris or to Nicole, or certainly copy me on it, and I will forward it to Nicole. We are down to director's comments. I'm going to start now with the non-voting members tonight. Molly Bannock. Are you with us, Molly?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Melissa Karlstrom?
I think she stepped away, David. I saw her get up.
Margot? Are you with us?
Yes, I'm still here. I just wanted to thank again the task force. That is a very difficult situation that they had to puzzle through a lot of different scenarios to come up with possible possibilities for all of us to think about. And I want to thank again all of the participation from the community. I think that it's very important that we have participation at board meetings, and it's been encouraging since we've been able to do an option to have board meetings online, that we have seen much higher participation levels at meetings. And I hope that as we continue forward, that people continue to stay engaged, share their ideas and their opinions with the boards, because it's very important that we hear from everybody as much as we can.
Thank you, Margot. Jack Breyer.
Thanks everybody for staying with this. It's been a very long meeting. I think it's always important to be guided by the science, and we did that. I do think that Deb and Priscilla and several other people have made a real important point about we need to find ways to reach out to working class parents who really are going, and parents that are at risk, families that are at risk, because I don't think where we're at gets to that problem. We need to make that part of our solution. That's the big hole in this proposal. I'm confident that we'll figure it out. I caution my members that, like everything else that solves a problem, it costs money. So be prepared for that discussion when we get there in the coming weeks. But thank you to everybody.
Hey, thank you, Jack. Deb Wright.
Yes, I thank everyone who has participated. And at first I thought maybe there was something wrong with the 45-member task force, but now after listening for several hours, I realized that they were hobbled in some ways, which I'm not going to go into now. In addition, I hope that we can live with the long-term ramifications of what's happened by making this choice while leaving some students and their families excluded. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Cheryl Charles.
Well, I too want to thank the members of the task force. I want to thank everyone who came out from the community tonight and have hung in for this close to more than 2 hours and all of that. It's actually 3 at this point. Thank you all. I want to make just a quick comment about the hybrid model, making it possible to practice physical distancing, wearing of masks, hygiene, washing hands in smaller groups that will allow teachers and support staff, who I believe will be there as well, to really give personal attention to the children who are coming back in a far more manageable way than the full class complement would. That's my opinion. I know others have different opinions. I think the majority tonight obviously voted in support of the hybrid model with the remote option as well. So I know we all don't agree about all of this, but at the same time, I know we're all well-intended. And I want to thank everyone for your patience and your thoughtfulness throughout this process.
Thank you, Cheryl. Priscilla?
I'm disappointed in not providing the parents that put in there that they wanted full-time instruction. So I'm really disappointed that the board would try to go ahead and vote on something that leaves them out, because they are truly without an educational program for their children with just doing the 2 days. They'll get more out of the remote, I agree. But also I am disappointed that you would violate what the AOE says it wants you to do, but it's okay.
Thank you, Priscilla. Brenda? Brenda Farkas?
I'm all set.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Lynn Morgan.
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. George Smith. George, you still with us? Well, try one more time. Jessa Wes Clark.
I just want to thank everyone who has come to the meetings and reached out to all of us, and remind everyone that the Union Elementary District has a meeting tomorrow night at 6:30.
Okay, thank you, Jessa.
It's at 6.
6, okay. George, are you here? I do not see you listed, okay. Jason Terry.
Yeah, hi. David, I really liked what you said about it needs to be looked at in 6 weeks or sooner. I hope, and hope's a powerful word, that we actually do that. I'm really disappointed in some of the integrity that I'm learning. And, you know, it was said tonight, if we don't vote on hybrid, then it's going to be full remote. So we really didn't have a choice. And I'm just really disappointed that, you know, a couple nights ago, a gentleman made a rude, over-the-top rude comment to a female board member. And it's not only not been addressed, but it's been celebrated on social media. There's no place for any man to make a comment like that to a female in 2020. So it's a very cowardice act for that individual. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I was going to try to refrain from comment tonight, but I do need to point out that we had an exceptional meeting here tonight because it went long. We had people who were very much on different sides of the discussion, and it remained civil. And I do have a concern that the social expectations, I believe, have changed, and behavior which is gender or race or economically based is no longer appropriate in a public forum such as a board meeting. So I do share Jason's concern about that. And once again, I want to thank this board for keeping it civil. Okay. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Can I have one, please? Jesse, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. All those in favor of adjournment, wave goodbye. Thank you all.
Bye.
Goodbye.